It'll be good.
I'll call the meeting to order. Good evening. Our first order of business is to have our opening prayer. If we could have Pamela Scott, please give us a prayer.
Let us pray. Ever-present God, we have much to be thankful for. We thank you for those who step up to serve our community. There is much business that is routine, but also much that offers challenge. Give our council discerning minds as they set the agenda, give them wisdom as they attend to the issues at hand, and give them grace as they interact with various members of the community. May they hold to their ideals as they seek to serve the various interest groups represented in the community. These things we pray in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Thank you. First item on our agenda is addition or deletions to the agenda.
I have nothing, Your Worship.
I have nothing, Your Worship.
I have two things, Your Worship.
Okay.
I would like to add, if I may, as a very first item on the agenda, Ronald McDonald House. And
Under where? Sorry?
as a very first item, Councillor Silva. It'll be very quick
Under
on the agenda.
on
I don't have the agenda in front of
new-
me, so looking for it.
a new business?
No, I want to put it right ahead of the public hearing.
Well, actually,
That's called to order.
it's
Call to order.
previous minutes and then
Okay,
delegations.
wherever.
Before the delegations.
Wherever you think is
Before the delegations.
wherever you think is appropriate. And the second one is just in new business. I just have some questions from the public with regards to issues around watering.
And under new business?
Yes, thank you.
So that would be 8.11. Councilor Fuel?
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Okay. And Councilor Rumpel?
Nothing for me, Your Worship.
And the only item that I'm going to ask before I get to the CAO is my item that I want to bring forward. We're going to do under committee and department reports, or we're going to include that under questions for administration. You please advise me which is the best way to handle that.
I believe, sorry, Your Worship, it's it involves
CRP.
CRP, so that could be done under your committee.
Okay, I'll be doing that under committee reports. Then. Thank you. And the CAO.
Okay, we'd like to cross off 8.7, 8.8, and we want to add on under 11, let's make a pitch.
So we'll call that 8.12, but it won't be quite the right number.
Which? Let's make a pitch be under 11.
At the next number afterwards, 8.12.
Ordering is 8.11.
Yeah, 8.11 is water.
Yes.
Okay, and then so yours is going to be 8.12.
11.1.
Yeah.
Under questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
under. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry.
And that's it.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I would ask for.
Your Worship, I would move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Next item is adoption of the minutes of April 16th, a regular council meeting minutes.
I move adoption, Your Worship.
Is there any discussion? None? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Our first delegation this evening, Huckstedts. Would you like to come forward, please, sir?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
McDonald.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we're not up
Not quite.
If I don't have it written down in front of me, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Peterson.
Councillor Field?
Oh, Your Worship, I just wanted to thank all the members of council and admin who worked at McDonald's today to work at McHappy Day for Ronald McDonald House. And we were thrilled that they were able to give us an apron to send to you, a presentation. We know how you love puns, so it's Mayor McCheese. And we intentionally spelled cheese wrong, just in case you're wondering. So there you go. That's for your love of puns.
And thank you very much.
And Your Worship, just to congratulate McDonald's for contributing to community in the way that they have. Ronald McDonald House serves a tremendous role, and we're grateful.
Any other comments?
Oh, no.
They really thought you did a good job. They would have hired Councillor Sobel. Not so much.
Not so much fuel.
Deputy Mayor Sobel, myself, and the CAO were in earlier today, and we all enjoyed ourselves, and it was actually a great honor and a privilege to be able to recognize and help McDonald's restaurants fund and support the Ronald McDonald House. If you've ever had a family that's been involved in regards to the need for using Ronald McDonald's House, you'll understand its value. Thank you, and I apologize, Mr. Huckstead, in regards to keeping you waiting. And I will wear this tonight with pride, by the way. Please, come forward.
This is Bruce Hempel. He's our number one. And he has quite a bit of experience with composting. That's what we're here for tonight, is to try and bring that forward to Strathmore. I believe it's something that we need to do here. It's something that should be here. It's time for it. Vancouver is making it a law next year, or trying to make it a law next year, that they'll accept no more organics into their landfill. And the results from what you can do with compost is incredible. The stuff that it does and what it puts back into us. 25% savings of landfill right off the top is what we can take out of the landfill, and it can get greater than that. But we prepared a little bit of research that we can show you guys a little bit about what composting is. It's just off of YouTube, but it'll kind of give you an idea. What we want to do is down at the recycle yard, we collect quite a bit of compost material, grass, sod, tree leaves, all that stuff, and it's not being utilized. So we would like to start a little pilot program and set it up so we can compost this material. Alberta Environment has 3 different classes of compost sites, and if you're under 100 metric ton a year, you don't require to have all the permits and stuff through them. If you go more than 100, then you have to go to different, either stage 1, 2, or 3. We would be under the 100, but still that's $108 a ton in the landfill that wouldn't be going there. When that product's finished, residents can be using that to bring it back. We can put it on our parks, on any green space, and it helps save the water. It feeds the plants. It actually works to deter the pests. You don't need pesticides when you use this stuff, because those pests don't like compost, and it makes the plant healthier. But I would like to be able to see us complete a year of it, and if we're successful, and we will be, we're going to learn. Bruce has some experience. He's done this in the past, but we're going to learn how to do it and make it good, and we can save a lot of cost. You're going to be saving fertilizer. When this stuff is put on the green spaces, it saves the water. You don't need to water as often, and the stuff is green for months after. And it's just time that we start doing that. I'm getting further ahead. If this pilot program works, within a couple years, we can move into a level 2, and we will save the town hundreds of thousands of dollars. On a level 2 compost, and we can qualify for it here. We'll just have to get it done, as then we can start accepting our sludge from the water treatment plant. And that's costing you guys $180,000 a year. And we can work that into the compost. There is stores that we've already approached and talked where we would deliver them 6-yard bins, and they would take stuff that would normally go into the waste bin. It can't be food items like food, meat or anything like that. It would have to be your vegetables and that stuff. We would then take that stuff out, join it with the mulch material, the grass, sod, leaves. We would mix that all with it, and then it composts, and you'll see some more of it on this video that we have. And the end result, it's the right thing to do. Today when I was in here looking at this, we should have some posters up here that move to Strathmore because we're the greenest town in Alberta.
Yeah.
And I think we can start that way, and we need to be that way. We need to be leaders. And it's ready, it's time. The children of tomorrow don't have a voice, but we have a voice today. Let's do it for them. And the same thing with the glass. There's been some flack about the glass and where we've been wasting it and stuff, but we're trying and we're educating, but we're finding, and today there's a chance that we can purchase a machine that will mulch, pulverize that glass and turn it back into sand that we can put in children's boxes. They can make lawn ornaments. They use it in bunkers in the golf courses. And all this stuff can be used, but we need to start moving that way and find different markets and get it better. And we need to be able to do that. And we'll start with, hopefully you guys will let us start with the small. I will supply all the equipment. We may need a little bit of help from the town the odd time with some of their equipment, but we have the equipment, we have the manpower, and we have his knowledge and what we're learning, and we'll do it. And it's no cost to the town. And if we fail, and we won't, but if we fail, you lose nothing. You just lose a lot of hard work and sweat that we put in, but I'm not going to lose. And we're very confident with his help we can make it work. And it is something we can do, and you guys will all be able to stand up when it's finished and we're not hauling those biosolids somewhere else. And you can say, we made a difference, we made this greener. But I need your help. I need you to say, yeah, call and go and do it. Show us what you can do. Prove us that you can do it. Now you can start learning a little bit about composting. I hope that I don't have to do this. That's help I need already. I was in it
I think this is something that you're
probably,
Turner,
no, building a compost.
building a compost pile?
I think so. Or is that one?
No,
Under,
but that's not the one.
it'd be the one under the Turner.
This one?
I think so.
This is Dave from Compost Junkie, www.compostjunkie.com, and today we're making some compost here. So you can see we've got some straw and horse manure, oat straw, underneath, and on top we're using this machine here. John's driving the truck, and what we're doing is we're inoculating it with some already pretty much finished compost. So we're adding those microorganisms and everything back into it. Still, it probably has enough on its own, but we like to add this as a reassurance. And so you can see, just moving along here, using this spreader. He loads the spreader with tractor, and then drives this right along the side. Spits out, covers the whole top. Then what we would do is we will run a turner, compost turner, through this entire pile, and at the same time we'll add water to it, and that will start the composting process. And from there the thermophilic stage of the compost will kick in, so the compost will start to heat up with the moisture, all the microbes will go crazy, and the compost will start to break down, and then we'll end up turning it several times a week for the first couple weeks. And then once it gets through its thermophilic stage, we'll let it cure, and then we're only turning it once every, we'll monitor moisture and everything at that point, but usually you don't end up turning it more than once a month if it needs it. And then it sits and cures for several months. And then you can pop it in your garden and grow the best of vegetables, best of plants. So this is compost making in a rudimentary form. There's a lot of other forms out there, but to give you an idea of how it can be done on a larger scale, so you see this huge windrow. Again, this is Dave from compostjunkie.com. Hope you've enjoyed learning that much more about compost. hop on the website and help us build the internet's biggest tribe of compost junkies. Happy composting.
That's great.
Now that's the first one.
Get out of here.
It's truly amazing what some communities have done down in the States and stuff with this. I think that's the last one. There's the Turner one you want. This is after the compost has been started.
This is Dave from CompostJunkie.com, and we are making compost here. You can see the compost turner. John's up there. John, the owner of the farm and the compost producer here. And you can just see the steam just coming right off. We measured moisture content. Moisture's good right now. We just measured temperature-wise about 150 degrees. So she's due for a turn. It was turned about a week ago. And so you can see how small the pile is as it enters the turner. And when it comes out, how tall it is. It just puffs right up. Adding all that air back into it, and it'll cool down and then probably heat it again too. You can see the beaters in there on the turner.
You can see how small the pile is in front, but it just fluffs it back up.
There's the man himself.
It'll go back down again, and then they'll have to keep turning it. And then in 5 years, from the research I've done, in 5 years it might be a little where you start turning a profit on it. You'll build up enough and people will start buying your product and stuff. But there's no money to be made in it for years, but it's the savings that'll make such a difference for you. And especially if we get into the solid, the biosolids and stuff like that. Like, that's tremendous savings for you. Right now, I'd like to start a pilot program, and if it works, and it will work, then we can grow it, or you guys can tell me, no, nice try, and we're going to do something different. But it's not going to cost you nothing, just a little chunk of land. It's where my compactor was, up on the site at the recycle yard. We're moving that dirt out of there now, but we'd like a little chunk so we can put 2 or 3 windrows in there, and give us a year to see what we can do. Like I said, we qualify. We qualify for that 100 tone without having to mess around with Alberta environment. It's after we show what we've done and we've gotten better at it and it's working, then we can ask for the next site if that's where you want to go with it.
Any questions, Deputy Mayor
Thank you.
Merciful?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just fantastic information, Colin. It's something that I'm hoping against anything that something like this was going to happen here. It's been talked about a long time, so I think it's fantastic. I'm especially interested in the idea of using grass clippings, etc. for that. I mean, that's weight, and it's a lot of volume in there.
I tried to get a report done for you today, just to show you how much more we haul into the landfill in these summer months.
Sure.
And it's like $5,000-6,000 a month more,
Sure.
just because that stuff's going in. I think if we educate everybody, and people will want to bring it down, they can either compost at home with their small outfits for themselves, or they can bring it down to us.
Yeah.
Or we'll probably have green bins that we can rent to you, and then you don't have to touch it at all, and we'll come around. It'd be just a service we offer.
Well, that was going to be my question, actually. I know you have cardboard bins in various places in the town. Are you at all considering having grass clipping bins?
Well, we definitely could look at that. That would be something that it would go hand in hand, but unless we have a compost site,
No, absolutely.
it's not a good thing to have. But we do accept all that downtown, like at the recycle yard.
Yeah.
I'd like you all to come by the recycle yard here in the next few days. There's been some wonderful changes there. And it's getting better every day, but we just need time and weather.
Absolutely.
And it's coming. I have one more clip here on the glass thing. I'd like to show you that before, and it's just a 2-minute thing. But yeah, that's something we could look. The only thing that happens when you put bins out that aren't controlled, then you get the wrong stuff in there.
I know.
And
I
then you got
appreciate
garbage
that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
But I don't have any problem with the small carts, the 50-gallon carts, like we have out for recycling now. Is that only we would have green carts? So you put your lawn clippings, your all that stuff. If you wanted to rent one, we come by and pick it up. That is a service we're going to be doing.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of money to be made in any of this stuff, but we need to have it all. And if we get it all and we get it working, I can survive. And in 5 years down the road, if we got this working like it should be, there'll be some money coming back to the town and from me from selling our product. And that can happen, and it will happen.
Well, I mean, there's the fact you're not hauling it to dispose of it, and then you're
Exactly.
turning around and using it as a soil stabilizer, improvement to your soil. You're not using commercial fertilizers anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a double win that side, right?
Are we starting the last one?
Double click what?
Ooh, we double clicked there.
This machine's available. You can't hear it, but this machine's available. It's about $30-some thousand. It's very user friendly. I've watched it work when I was at Waste Expo. It pulverizes the glass so that you can reach your hand in there and twist it around and stuff, and it doesn't go in. It was scary for me to try it the first time because I didn't believe it, but there was a lady showing a demo and she did it. It'll handle up to 8-ounce or 8-inch glass bottles. It'll do up to a half a ton an hour. We're not anywhere close to that, but I don't think we should buy a smaller machine or get a smaller machine because we're going to grow into this, and hopefully there's a lot more recycling and a lot more of it happening. But what it does is takes the labels and stuff off. That's the glass there, and the other stuff, it takes the labels and the caps and all that stuff and kicks it into that stuff right there. And like I said, the glass can be used for anything after that. Like it's good for ornaments. You can use it and mix it with concrete and make gnomes. And
Well, they use that in streets as well, don't they?
Yeah,
The
they
city
do
is
it on-
using it for some of the roads.
bike paths and all that stuff. It just becomes another usable product that we're paying to get rid of it in landfill. How will you recoup the cost for the $30,000-$40,000 machine? It'll be in what we were dumping in land disposal fees and the transportation costs and all that. The resident of Strathmore is very, I think you've all seen that, they're very passionate about recycling, and everybody wants to help. But we need to give them the right place, we need to give them a good usable place, and we need to have this stuff.
So does that do window glass too?
That's a good question, Rocky, I don't know.
If that's float glass, it shouldn't be any different.
But I think it's something that we should look into. If it's $40,000, for 10% of that is $4,000 down, and put it over 60 months, the payments that we were paying for landfill fees and this would probably make the payments in 5 years we own it anyway. But I'm not asking for that right now, but that's something, and with the plastics and stuff that there's no market for, we have to just get more creative and find more ways of doing it. And we need to educate people on, and Linda and I are working on that, on what they should be shopping for and putting pressure on the people that are selling the products that aren't recyclable anymore. We shouldn't be purchasing them. And it's just an education thing. We are setting up a web page where you can go to on our web page and get more information for recycling and what we're doing with it and how we do it. That's coming. Linda and I are working on a program where we're going to try and educate more with recycling stuff. But like I say, it just takes a little more time, and let us try. That's all I want. Just let us try. And I will take any flack. If anything goes wrong, my name's on there. I'm out there. People can email me. They can talk to me. You guys don't need to be taking the flack. Let it come to me, but let me run it. And let me take the flack. And if I fail, it's me that fails. You guys just gave me a chance. And I've had a chance here for 25 years, 30 years. And there's a few people not here anymore that have passed on, but John Lavolta stood up for me once and gave me a chance. And there was I don't know if you remember Steve McGinnis, the engineer who wanted to change how we were doing garbage here. It would have cut my business out. And all the businessmen got together and said, no, the reason why we have Huckstead here is because the big guys don't look after us. But we need to have community spirit like that so that we can all prosper and do good together. And I make enough money off my commercial stuff that I don't need to to make money off recycling, but I need to help. And it's my duty to do it. And I've got the ability to do it. You guys just need to let me do it. And I don't know how much more to beg her. But that's all I'm asking, right?
Councillor Peterson?
Mr. Huxted, besides a motion for action, what else do you need from the town?
I need that piece of land over there. The 5 acres was the full 5 acres was all the way to the south. And it's good high dry land. It's where we've moved some of the stuff now, and people are all happy today because now they're not walking in mud and dirt anymore. They're up in the highland. We're digging out that ramp that we had, and we're filling up another spot where the give and take will go down and that traffic will go there. But I need to have traffic coming in and from one end and exiting on the other end so we don't have all these bottlenecks and near accidents. I almost run over a little girl with my loader. It was Wednesday before Good Friday. And I was not sleeping anymore. I know something was going to happen there. We're fixing it now, and we were able to fix it. We got another little piece of land from you to fix it,
Yeah, okay.
and we're going to have it fixed. And if you go up there, you'll see a big improvement now. But what I would like to see to run it truly good is I would like to have access. It's a recycle facility. If you have a concrete yard block and it's broke, you need to get rid of it. You used to bring it to the recycle yard. You were directed where to put it. Now they come and they ask us, and we say you have to contact the town. So they phone the town, and then they have to make an appointment with the town to have somebody drive over there and open the gate and have them drive the cement back there and throw the cement over there. I want access to that whole place so that when they come, I can direct them. I have the equipment. I have the people. The recycled asphalt that you guys use for alleys and all that stuff, that comes in, and then it gets ground. You guys know how many yards it is because you get charged for grinding it. Then you're using it back on your driveways, your roads, your paths. It's nice material, but it costs something to bring it back to what it should be. Over the years, the town has sold that stuff, but the same thing is you have to wait for somebody to come and somebody to load you, and it's costing money. It's costing carbon imprint, everything. I'm there. I have a scale in our yard. I have loaders there. I have people there. Let me direct it. Let me show where we can put it. We can have our compost here. We can have our cement there. We can have the asphalt there. Let me send the people where they're supposed to go with the stuff. When somebody needs to buy some, I can load it up. They weigh it. They send you your guys' money, your share of it. They can pay me a small fee for loading them. But by the time you run a loader over there, you've already lost money. By the time you send people from the phone calls, and people get tired of running a big circle to try and get something done, so they just throw it in the garbage, they throw it in the back alley, they throw it in ditches. We've had cement delivered to us, and we've accepted it because we didn't want to turn them away, because I know they weren't going to go through the channels. And we're dealing with it, and we'll deal with it. But I need to have access to that whole yard. I don't want to buy it from you. I want to lease it for 3 years. If I do you a good job, give me another 3 years. If I don't do you a good job, you fire me. But I need access to it, and I need to be able to run it, and I can do it right, and I will do it right. And you guys can check on me with all of it because you know what you paid to have it ground. The next time it needs to be ground, I'll have a machine or I'll hire a machine. You'll know how many yards it is, and you're entitled to that at the cost. And when your people need some of it, they come up there, they load it up, they weigh it. You know what you're putting out. And we need more of that stuff out.
So if I can just recap, because I'm not clued in about this completely. If you lease the 5 acres.
Well, I don't think there's 5.
Well,
there's
3.
4 acres, 3 acres, whatever it is.
If you lease that additional acreage, then you would compost.
Correct.
Look after the cement.
Correct.
Load the asphalt.
Correct.
And you would
maintain the whole site.
Maintain it.
Remove snow, whatever it takes.
And at no cost to the town.
At no cost to the town. Where I would recoup it back is having access to run it properly. The better I can make this place, the more other products will be coming to me. I plan on doing wood. We bought a chipper, and it's $120,000. So when you tear your fence down, you'll bring that material to me. Now you rent a bin for me, or you haul it to Calgary to landfill, and you pay the landfill fees, or you pay somebody to truck it. You have an option. You can rent a bin from me, or you can bring it down to the recycle yard. You weigh it. It goes into this bin. then it gets ground up and it becomes mulch. We have a dyer for that mulch machine. It turns it into whatever color I want it. So if Strathmore's blue and you want blue mulch, we can make you beautiful blue mulch and you can put it all over your flower beds. The product's not going into landfill anymore. It's doing something useful. It looks nice, and I'm going to make money off you bringing it and me grinding it and me dyeing it and me selling it back to you. And that's where I make my money, not off of baling cardboard and that stuff. It doesn't break even. And if you come and look at our shop right now, we are probably 1/3 full of cardboard and paper. I'm not sure our shop's going to be big enough for what we're doing when it grows. And I'd like you to come over and see it, because there's 1/3 of it is right stacked with cardboard, and we're starting to ship. So people are helping. Strathmore's passionate. and this program has been since '94, I think, is when I first heard about the grants, and I went to Wetaskiwin and found out how they were doing it, brought it back to Strathmore, and sold that idea to that council. They got the grant, and the recycling was born. My kids run it for a couple of years, and then it got bigger than what they could handle it. And then Ken got involved, and they got that piece of land working over there. And the town has done a wonderful job getting it to that stage, but it needs to go to the next stage. It was making too big of a carbon imprint, hauling next to nothing all the way into the city and trying to bale it. And it was costing fuel, labor, and making a bigger carbon imprint than we're getting out of. Now we bale it, and instead of 3 ton going, there'll be 18, 19, 20 ton going. And that's the way it should be.
Deputy Mayor Sobel.
Thanks. While we're on the topic of environment, I'm enthralled, I'm enthusiastic, and I'm very excited. You notice that's 3 E's about this whole thing. But I suspect this is something that Your Worship, I would suggest be directed to administration to bring back to us, hopefully at the next council meeting, May 21st, after discussions with Mr. Huckstead, with a recommendation and some further details as to how this would look in regards to our property. That would be my motion.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Field?
No, I'm totally in agreement with Councillor Peterson and Sobel, and I think this is an exciting time for Strathmore. I really like the proposal and the ideas that are coming forward. I think we could be on the cutting edge of doing a lot to be greener as a town, and I totally agree. After all the Facebook postings, I totally agree that this town is incredibly passionate about recycling and making this place better. So this sounds like it could be a very exciting partnership too between the town and your company.
We should be able to be the leaders, and other communities come here and see what we do. We should be able to brag about what we do. You guys won awards years back on what you were doing, and it was but it was ready to go to the next stage.
Yes.
And it's $2 million just about invested over there to make that happen. Some of it I needed it for me, but there's a lot that went back into just the recycling. And you know the numbers on how much profit there was made off of that recycling. But I believe with Bruce's help and the rest of my guys, we can make this work for all of us. And if we get that compost working and stuff, you're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I hope that in the end, there's some money kicking back out and we're selling that product.
I did have a quick question about the composting. When this comes back to us and we decide to go from there, if we go ahead with the composting, at what point or how far from now would we be starting to look at having town equipment applying that to green spaces and things?
Like Bruce was saying, you guys have some trucks that could be converted into like sanders and stuff that could apply it. I should have brought some more of their stuff. There's small equipment that can apply it anyway. It's not going to cost you any money to apply it.
No, I'm just wondering at what point, like how like if we decide to go for this.
In a year from now, we would have product.
Next spring, you would be
starting to be able to apply that to green spaces. Okay.
I mean, we may have product available this fall.
Yeah.
But it would be of no benefit to apply it.
And you have storage capacity until that point?
If we have access to that other land. If we don't, our hands are tied. And what do I do with it? It's easier for me then to take it and sell it to somebody else or pay to get rid of it. Over the years, that stuff, I set it up where we haul it out to tree nurseries. And I used to get paid to haul it, but I found nurseries that would take it and they would pay me a little bit of the transportation, and the town would pay me for half of it. So it was gone. I made a little bit of money, but the product was going and it was collected there and it was done. But it's crazy that we're giving it away. We should, that piece of land hasn't been used. Where my ramp is, that piece of land has been there for 10 years. And that's when we decided, when Strathmore grew so fast, like it grew fast, and I had small trucks. And okay, the only way I can haul all this stuff is I have to buy bigger trucks. If I buy bigger trucks, we're wrecking your alleys. You need to chop that tree down. You need to move your fence on your own property so I can get these trucks in. So Dwight and I and John Cost, he was the engineer then, came up with, why don't we compact it? You have a better way, we can collect it with the smaller trucks, compact it, and then haul it in bigger outfits. That's what we did. But I couldn't do it where I was at. The town needed the water line through there. The compactor was sitting up there. So Linda and the mayor then, I forget his name, George Lattery, came and asked me if we moved it over here to this piece of property, can you continue doing that? We can put the water line through. It's a win-win, so we did. And then it just kind of changed again. But that piece of land hasn't been used for 10 years. And all I'm asking is let me clean it up, let me put the compost on there and try it. You have nothing to lose. And the land has not been used. There was big dirt piles all over that place. And I got that dirt pile with that 2.5 acres of beauty land and I can't drive on. We have to use 4x4s to get our bins.
Okay. Councillor Peterson?
I'm not as alliterative as my fellow councillor Sobel, but I will say that I really appreciate your initiative and your enthusiasm and your dedication to the town. This is one of the most exciting initiatives that I've seen come forward, and I am just so supportive of Bob's motion and of the future possibilities for this. I think it's amazing, and I'd just like to say before we take the vote on this motion, don't leave because I have another question.
Okay, and to respond on that, I'm very excited again.
Yeah.
I'm excited to show what I can do, but I need to show you.
Yeah.
I need to do it. I need to be able to do it. And I'm excited. I've lost a few nights because I'm sitting up here watching and learning how to do this, and it's because he started talking to me about it. And like I say, we won't fail.
Yeah.
And you have nothing to lose.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Huckstead, before the motion, or I guess the motion is on the floor, what I'm going to ask that you do is that you put your business plan together and you bring it back to administration so administration can bring it to us so we can review it and we have the information we need to make an informed decision for the citizens of this town.
Yep.
And we would welcome your business plan.
Perfect.
So the motion is on the floor.
Just prior to taking the vote, Your Worship, I just want to check with administrations, the CAO. Is 21st of May, do you think that's a reasonable time to bring this back? Wait.
Colin?
We're on a time crunch too if we want to make this work.
Well, that's why I want it at the first possible date.
If he can get the plan to
Yeah.
us quick enough.
I gotta have it here tomorrow morning.
Okay. So
Okay.
should be okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Motion's on the floor. All in favor? And carried.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
One other comment I'd just like to make is Huckstead still has 2 years left on the residential contract. And I just wanted for the record, we want to sign that contract. We were always intending on that, and we wanted those 2 contracts married back when this recycle yard started 2.5 years ago. And it never got happened, but I need that next 2-year contract to make this all work. And I haven't done you a bad job, and all the other contracts have all been renewed, and it's always been a precedent that we have a 2-year renewal, and I want it knowing that I want that, and I need it. And I haven't done you a bad job on the residential. The only time we've ever not finished completed residential was this winter, and we couldn't get up and down the alleys because we didn't have the equipment, or the town wasn't having enough equipment, and it was just an act of God. It was nobody's fault. But that's the only time we've ever failed.
Oh, it wasn't a failure. It was.
Deputy Mayor?
I'm not sure if thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure if a motion is needed for that, but if it is, could that be brought back for the 21st as well?
Yes, Your Worship.
I just need to put it away. I need to know where we're at. 'Cause
Well,
if we're not there, I need to know, and I'll do something different.
Okay.
But I need to know.
Okay, Councillor Peterson?
Just in response to Councillor Sobel, that was confirmed by our deputy CAO, and so we know that, and it definitely will be brought back. Colin, in a conversation that I had with you recently, we talked about it, and Councillor Sobel also had brought it up, about the issue of garbage beside the mailboxes in the community.
Oh.
And you had some ideas around that. I was wondering if
I would like to go to your troubled areas and try, we call it Rec Cycle. It's a little plastic cart that we're renting out. We have about 150 of them out now. We would like to go to some of your worst areas. We'll donate that. We'll dump it once a week, but that stuff will be going into the garbage the first few weeks to make sure it's not being vandalized and the doggy bags or stuff are going in there. And if the residents are working with us and keeping it clean, then it'll go into our recycle program, and we'll donate that as a service to see if we can't make it. Because I know there's some areas that it's bad where it's being abused, where they pull the flyers out and they're tucked in there and then they fall on the ground and they blow around. But we'll donate the carts and the service for a pilot program and see how it works. And if it's not being abused, then we can talk at how we're gonna.
Who, I guess I would address to Dwight, who's in the best position to make that decision around where those troubled sites are?
Probably the bylaw. Aren't they the ones that are?
Possibly,
Parks and Rec, maybe? I
possibly.
don't know.
Yeah, both. In particular this summer, having a lot of youth around, you know, mowing, cutting grass and all, they'd have an idea as well.
Okay, Councilor Teal.
Well, I love the idea of having something like recycling near the problem areas of the mailboxes and things. Can we also direct administration or talk to administration about having something in our, maybe our utility bills or on our Facebook page or our town website as far as education and that these things will be appearing and that they need to be treated with the right kind of mentality or philosophy about recycling?
I think a lot of it is education for everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those places we need a 45-gallon drum with a garbage bag in it for them to throw their dog doo-doo in there. That might be something to help too. I'm not volunteering to go pick that up. You'll pay me if you want me to pick that up. But that is or maybe you just need more signs, more education saying if you want to keep this, police it yourself. Make sure it's not abused. But we're willing to donate that and see how it comes.
What I would request that you do then, Mr. Huckstead, maybe as a separate item, separate from your business plan, is just give us a written confirmation in regards to what you're willing to do, approximately how many sites.
I need to know how many sites, and I need to know from you guys what'll work. You tell me what you need, and I'll tell you how much I'll give.
Okay, awesome.
But I need to know that.
administration.
Then it's just an
Okay.
action,
Then that's something that we'll ask you to contact administration, and once you come up with the number of sites,
or
again,
administration contact him.
or vice versa. And as soon as we've got that communication going back and forth in regards to what needs to be done, then as long as we can come up to an agreement, and so that agreement can be brought to council, if a motion needs to be made, and we will address it at that time.
I have no problem, and it'll be a simple agreement. We'll do it. We'll see how it works, and hopefully you're happy. If you're not happy, you tell me we'll do something different. But I only offered this to solve a problem. I know it's a problem. I see it when I drive around, and it disgusts me that people would do that. Like, there's so many ways they could change, but then once again, it's like Linda and I'm talking. We need to educate. And when the recycle yard first started, it wasn't getting used, and it was getting abused, and then it got educated, and now we have passionate people, and the mailbox will be the same thing. One person throwing it on the ground, and then there's another person will pick it up.
Yeah.
Today there was a guy that come in. We've moved the bins over, putting the cardboard in, and he says, we didn't have to flatten it before. And I said, I know, you could throw it into there, and we had to run a diesel engine, and it took power, and we're not doing, it takes 2 or 3 minutes for you to flatten your cardboard and throw it in the slots. She said, I told you that, honey, we should have done that at home.
See?
There was a pizza box laying there, and I was looking at it and looking around to see who dropped it, and he said, honey, hand me that. She says, I didn't drop that. And I said, no, but it's nice if we pick it up and keep this clean. So we picked it up. And it just took that little bit, and that's education. And if everybody's helping us out, and we have lots of volunteers come down there, but they're not going to work in rubber boots.
Yeah.
And they're not going to work where it's not safe to be. And I mean, I don't want them there. Not when it's. But you give me another week and a half with Bruce went like heck today, get things, and they look great.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lopeland.
I'm also say something in here too before we get off on this here. I'm really enthused about everything that's being said and done tonight, and I might just add to Mr. Huckstead and H&H and the recycle yard. I'm very proud of what you do, and very conscious of you being a business leader in this community, and it makes me proud to be a citizen of this town.
Well, thank you.
Here, here.
Wow.
You're gonna make me cry. No, that is nice. And you know, and for the record, I should have sent you a few bouquets that we got. And there's some young people and there's some older people that send me bouquets when I needed them. Like I was hurt because some of my kids were hurt from some of the stuff, and we didn't do this. But we're trying to get it better. But some of the young people stepped up and sent me. They just it gave me goosebumps.
That's good.
And it changed my whole attitude on how. And then I will show everybody here that with our team, we'll make this the best. And you guys will be proud to say where you go, come to Strathmore because we're the greenest. And
No
maybe
doubt in my
mean
mind,
sometimes
not at
too.
all.
Pardon?
There's no doubt in my mind at all.
And thank you very much for your comment, Rocky. That makes me feel great.
And in regards to your invite, if you invite one council member, I would suggest all council members should be able to attend at the same time, so we all.
I'm welcome to that anytime.
Okay.
But I'm welcome you guys come over there anytime. Any one of you or all of you.
It
And just
should
have
be
a look.
it should be the council as a whole that goes, so that we.
Oh, I go over
For
there
what
all the
reason?
time.
Pardon me?
For what reason would you all have to come?
It's better to keep things together. Yeah.
To come and recycle?
No, no, not.
We can recycle again, there you go. We might as
I've
well pick up
recycled
the
ever
garbage
since the day it
around.
was open.
Yeah.
But Councillor Rempel.
Thank you. I just want to let you know, and you probably know already, but you have my full support.
Thank you, John.
And I really want to see you guys succeed with going into the future here and getting us to that next level. I'm like Rocky. I'm proud to be a citizen of Strathmore. And by the way, I got a nice article in the paper today.
That was really nice.
Yeah, I can thank a young lady here. I didn't know it was in the paper. There was a few people stopped by and said, how is that? You inherited the problem. I didn't know that was in the paper. But now you're fixing it. And then she looked at a couple the guys that were cleaning up and said, but you started some of this or something like that. But yeah, it was a very nice article, and we're going to make a difference. And I would like us all to come over, and I'll have coffee and donuts from Rocky's and show you what we're doing over there. But any time you guys want to just come over there, and if you have a question for me and think I'm doing something wrong, please let me know and I'll fix it. Send me an email, come and see me, whatever. I'm sorry for taking so much time and talking so much, but I am excited about doing this if we can.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Wade.
Our next item on our agenda is the 55 Plus Games Committee, and Ms. Ledeen. I apologize to keep.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Some of you are new since I was last here, so I would like to introduce myself as the chair of the 2015 Strathmore Alberta Senior 55 Plus Senior Games Society. I can't even get it all together straight. The naming society is interesting. I am here tonight to request your financial and in-kind support of this event that we are basically hosting for you. We have a group of directors who've been here since October, and by the end of this month we have to have a financial plan that can be approved by Alberta Sport, and so your partnership in our event is part of this expectation that I need to have in place for the end of the month. So in doing some brainstorming with my committee and trying to identify things that we feel that the town might be willing to support us in this event, the budget overall right now is at about $1 million. So we have a lot of fundraising to do. We have grant applications to apply for. Alberta Sport are supporting us with a grant of $160,000. An additional $25,000 for the cultural aspect, and if we provide a positive financial statement at the end, there will be an additional $25,000 legacy to the town. So it is our goal not to have a deficit. We want very much to, with our fundraising and our grant applications, to find sponsorships and financial support for this event. Anything that's left over will be a legacy to the community, and so we hope we can provide that legacy not just with an event and bringing 1,500 people to the community, and hopefully exposing our region to all of Alberta and give them a reason to come back. So the breakdown of requests that we are submitting to the town would be that overall we would look for a $200,000 contribution to our event. You have already generously given us $10,000 and we didn't have any money and we needed something to get started with. So we would ask that we just maintain that as your part of your contribution. There's some equipment that we don't have in the community that will be needed for this games, and once we purchase them, then they would continue to be part of the community. So in a way, a legacy as well. We have $12,500 for shuffleboard equipment. We appreciate your already indication that we can use the Civic Center, the Family Center, and the Aquatic Center for these events at no cost, other than a cost, at a $40,000 in-kind donation from you. We will expect to do at least 3 fundraisers, and they may need space to do them in, so the ability to use the town facility to use them as part of our fundraising activities, which would amount to about $5,000. The potential use for one day of your booth at the rodeo grounds to promote the event by bringing people to the community who might be larger sponsors. One of our major expenses is hiring some staff, and so we would ask that you would provide the salaries for 2 staff, which would be approximately $120,000 for 18-month contract and a 12-month contract. We need to develop bocce courts. Apparently the bocce courts that we've had have been dew-worm infested, and competitors are going to need something that's in better shape. And Tracy Simpson of your staff has been very kindly supporting us a great deal, and $7,000 of her time commitment toward this event would be appreciated. I had one other addition that was suggested, and I'll just present it for your consideration. We have a fundraising chair, his name is Cave Starling. One of his ideas is, in addition to these, is that we perhaps consider businesses, corporates who donate large funds to this event. We might be able to create banners that we could put up on the baffles in the swimming pool as a possible fundraiser. And long term, perhaps those businesses might like to contribute to continue to have their signage in the pool and would pay a fee. That isn't part of this, but he asked me to also suggest that as a possibility for your consideration. This event is very exciting. I'm very passionate about it. We are looking forward to a great event, and it's a big undertaking. And all of us on the board are doing this for the first time, so we feel like sometimes we're ducks out of water, but I think we're starting to get things in order. And today we have interviewed people for our games manager position, so we're moving along in the process of getting this event up and running. So I submit my requests to you for your support. And I guess the other thing I would ask, not just your financial support, but we would really appreciate your personal support by attending things and talking up this event and making connections. If you know of anybody who'd like to donate money, send them our direction. I'm sure we can find a use for their funds or their energy. We'll need about 700 to 800 volunteers to put this event together. And so again, we are counting on the generosity of our community and the community at large around Strathmore to help support this event.
Councillor Field?
Just a question through the chair to admin. As far as the staff wages for the games manager and the office administrator, first of all, I'm very much in favor of this. The previous council was very energetic, and our philosophy was we needed to start attracting things to this town. We needed to make Strathmore become more of a destination. So I'm very much in favor of what you guys are doing. I think this is great. My only question to admin is the procedure or the methods to find funds for the staff wages. Where it comes from. Where would we get that?
For our own staff?
Well, for the games manager, the 18-month manager.
For those two?
Yeah, for those 2 positions.
It's okay.
Okay, for that we'd have to probably go to the financial stabilization reserve.
This is part of the 200, wasn't it?
And then, of course, for our own staff, we're paying them anyways.
Yeah.
Did you want to add on that?
Yeah, well, I actually just want to make, I want to make a comment and an emotion, but considering that that I'm going to be 55 in about 15 years or so.
Going around a second time.
The heck. Anyway, as most might be aware, I'm very supportive of the games. I'm a director on the in the area of sustainability for the games, and have quite enjoyed being on this committee. However, at this point in time, it is time to put on my council hat, and I'm also aware, as part of the committee, and the very able Cave Starling is the ability that Cave Starling has in regards to raising funds for this event makes me somewhat tentative about approving a monetary amount of $120,000 for the game staff wages. And one of the reasons I am concerned is if they over-raise funds, then that money does not come back to the town. It can go into the town, but would not come back into the coffers. So I'm just a little cautious that if there's a very successful fundraising activity that takes place, that they may not need this $120,000. So my proposal would be that we don't approve that amount at this time, and that we review this issue perhaps at a later time when more of the fundraising activities is accomplished by the games. I support the games 100%, and I'd be more than willing to have another look at this in the future. But at this point, I would actually move that the town of Strathmore demonstrate support for the 2015 Alberta 55 Games by providing a $10,000 cash donation, which deals with the cash advance that we supplied them. Shuffleboard equipment not to exceed $12,500. Bocce court development at Lambert Centre not to exceed $10,000. And the following in-kind contributions: facility donations at an approximate value of $45,000. One-day use of the town's Heritage Days booth valued at approximately $1,000. And town employee Tracy Simpson's time commitment for this project valued at $7,000, for a total contribution at this time of $85,000.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions?
Yes, Worship, just a comment through the chair to Donalda.
Okay.
If this motion goes through the way it is, can you function, can you begin work, can you carry on without having a games manager paid for it this time, or an office administrator? Are you going to be able to find people, and do you have fundraising already happening so that these positions can start to get paid? Where does it leave you?
Well, we don't have fundraising that's going to have money in the bank for, say, a payroll for each month.
Mm-hmm.
We do have to hire staff. Like we, as a board of volunteers and subcommittees of all volunteers, there definitely is work that has to be done. We have actually hired a student from Mount Royal University who is working on a practicum, and she started on Monday. And this is a paid position, but she's going to be working a lot with the promotion side of things. There's stuff that has to be up and running. Publicity, you can't fundraise without spending some money. And we can't be organized and have everything ready for a year from now if we don't start getting some paid staff doing some of the work. And the reason I put that $120,000 in is because I know when you have to have salaries for employees, it's nice to know that the money is going to be there each month to pay them. Whereas fundraising, you don't know when the bulk of that funds are going to be available, and are they going to be available on any given month. Kate has 2 ideas that are starting, but there's no money coming in from any of them, and perhaps won't be for several months.
If we had if we looked at funding the staff wages, is there anything that can be done as far as if we had a motion on the floor for that to ensure that it was paid back to the town's coffers?
And one other thing I would like to just interject here is that this 200,000 would be over the whole time of the game, so from now until next July. And so even if we were to entertain looking at the end of the year at how much fundraising we've actually accumulated and reevaluate the amount of money that is in fact going to be needed. We don't know right now at this point where our fundraising is going to go. We have great aspirations, but I also don't want to see any salaried staff sitting, having done a month's work and not being able to pay.
Yeah, and if I could just clarify, first of all, there is some money in the account from Alberta Sport, and that amount is approximately
$65,000.
So I once again, I'm fully supportive of this. My concern only lies that once this money goes, it cannot come back. So I have no problem with the games coming back to us in 3 months if they have to review this but I want to just do it in a progressive manner and in a conservative manner that would protect our funds as much as possible.
Thank you to both of you. Thank you.
Councillor Bluffman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair to Donalda, the $120,000 figure for the game staff wages, I'm trying to read this line here. Does that involve one games manager and one office admin, or more office admin?
Past games organizations have hired a games manager and an office manager. We are less than 18 months now from the time of the thing. So when this was originally created, we were looking at 18 months. We have not hired anybody yet, so nothing's going to happen as far as even one employee is concerned until probably mid-April, mid-May at the earliest, possibly not even till So the time frames are certainly different. We were looking at, that was when we were originally planning this, and our timeline is getting shorter and shorter.
And I'm in full support of all this too, myself, both as a citizen and as a councillor, but I keep looking at dollar figures, and $120,000 for two people.
No, actually, it's three people.
Well, it could
two assistants.
The assistant, the office administration can be depending on who we hire as a games manager. Office manager may be two assistants. It can take on a variety of different views. We don't know for sure until we get the games manager in place.
Exactly. And are you working on some kind of past history on previous games? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you were to look at Airdrie right now, and they're doing the youth games, I believe they have a games manager, an office manager, and 3 or 4 assistants that are already working.
Okay, thank you.
Tracy did such a good job of, I asked questions before of her about comparative processes in other games, and she was able to supply us with really timely information. One of the things that I looked at after that information that Tracy gave me was information from other senior games in Lakeland and the Airdrie previous when they hosted the senior games. And they seem to have a little more lead-in time before they actually hired their staff too.
The guidelines we were given was that they generally hired 18 to 12 months.
12 months is what I kind of saw as an average when I went back to 2008. But,
we were looking, I mean, if you have somebody who has some games experience, perhaps 12 months.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody who knows nothing about it, and we're all starting from scratch. None of us have ever had any experience at it, so it's a challenge.
Well, I echo Councillor Sowell and the rest of the councillors, and certainly supporting the games. But I like Councillor Sowell's idea that the town is in taking money out of financial stabilization at this point in our history is a difficult thing to do, and so being really mindful is to me a wise thing. So understanding that you have our support. Yeah.
Any other questions? I guess the question that I have then, Ms. Nadine, is in regards to a sense of comfort for you in regards to being able to hire a staff or more than one person. Do you need some sort of a guarantee from us at this point to say that there would be a salary paid for a period of a few months or several months, whatever the case may be, so that you know there's going to be salary paid for these people until the fundraising starts to come in? Do you need some sort of comfort there?
I think even the acknowledgement that it's okay to come back to you. I mean, we do have the funds from Alberta Sport to begin things with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just the comfort knowing that you are receptive to our returning to say, hey, our fundraising is going, but we don't have money in the bank on a consistent basis to be able to pay support staff, that we can come back to you.
Do you need to alter your motion at all to include that? Because as far as I'm concerned, you've got the support of council to be able to do it. It's just that from the information that we've received, to say that we're willing to put the $120,000 out right now and then run the risk that if a whole bunch of fundraising is successful,
Right.
that money doesn't come back to the town office as such. And that's what I'm reading here.
And so you're looking really, if you were looking from now to the end of December, which is about half the year, you're looking at $60,000 this year and maybe another $60,000 next year should we need it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So, as long as you're happy with the motion that Deputy Mayor Sobel put down, like I say, and if anybody wishes to speak up and say that I'm saying something wrong here, you do have support of council, and when it comes to the salary, we will support that. There is money in stabilization to be able to do it. We would just like to make sure that we expend as little as possible if that fundraising is successful.
And I just, I appreciate the support of council. This is a big event coming to our community, and we just want to do a good job of this, and we want it to be a positive experience for everybody who attends, as well as those who are working.
And the Plus 55 Games was even mentioned at the Economic Development Conference in Kananaskis.
And the other thing you need to be reminded of is that we are all partners in this, and if we all have a deficit, then it all comes back to the town and that financially in the end anyway.
Yep.
So how we hold things for that. Not to be negative.
No.
Councilor Ripple?
Yeah, through the chair, Nella had indicated there that 60,000 this year and 60,000 probably next year. Could we work with 60,000 instead of 120 now, and look at it from a different angle, and then if they needed more, then they could come back next year and request some more on this, or are you're still set in your?
I kind of like the motion the way it is. It's when they're not in financial straits at this point. I mean, I would never let them go into financial straits. But I think the onus is on the games committee to be financially viable, and rather than us pushing forward, and I think it's up to them to get to carry on with their fundraising activity, and then see where they are in a few. It doesn't matter when they comes back. I want to have a good I mean, we have a good relationship, obviously, with the games committee. So that shouldn't be very difficult for us to liaise with that.
As long as it doesn't tie their hands.
No, absolutely not.
That they can't go ahead and hire somebody, people that they need.
Absolutely.
Time is of the essence here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can come back to council
I need to.
at any time
I know
you
where
need,
you are.
and yeah. And you can.
Thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Well, could we just hear that motion one more time?
Sure, I would love to. I move that the town of Strathmore demonstrates support for the 2015 Alberta 55 Plus Games by providing a $10,000 cash donation, comma, shuffleboard equipment not to exceed $12,500, comma, bocce court development at Lambert Center not to exceed $10,000, and the following in-kind contributions: facility donations at an approximate value of $45,000. One day, $45,000, sorry.
There's 2 lines there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. One day use of the Town Heritage Days booth valued at approximately $1,000, and town employee Tracy Simpson's time commitment for this project valued at approximately $7,000 for a total contribution at this time of $85,000.
You okay with that?
Where's the money from?
Wishes of council.
Question?
All in favor? Carried. Any negative on that one? Did we miss anything?
Nope.
No.
Thank you for your
It's
work.
carried.
Thanks.
The next item on our agenda is bylaw 1406, municipal reserve bylaw. And that's planning and development. Mr. Fisher, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. This is essentially a housekeeping item. In 2013, a parcel of land along the north side of the canal, just east of Parkwood Crescent, was registered as a conventional lot. The intention was to register it as a municipal reserve parcel, and that didn't happen, and the purpose of this bylaw is simply to remedy that issue. Now, it's not absolutely essential that we do that, but there are some benefits in terms of optics and consistency, and the fact that it really is not practical for too many other uses other than a park.
Your Worship, I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 14-06.
All in favor?
09.
Sorry, 09? 06 I have on my
06
paper.
on the bylaw we got up here.
I'm not sure.
Oh, pardon me. I'm on the wrong page.
06.
I'm on
06. All in
1409.
favor of
What?
first reading on bylaw 06. Carried.
Your Worship, okay, go ahead.
Your Worship, I would move the council give second reading to bylaw number 14-06.
All in favor? There's any discussion? Second reading, we do discussion?
Discussion, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Second reading, we have discussion. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And
I move that council give unanimous consent to bylaw 14-06.
all in favor? Carried.
And Your Worship, I would move that council give third and final reading to bylaw number 14-06.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next is Downtown Design Review Committee Bylaw Amendment 1409. And who
Mr.
will be
Worship.
addressing that one?
I will, Your Worship.
Right?
Last year, Council passed bylaw 1319, which was the Downtown Design Review Committee bylaw. In the bylaw, there was terms of reference for the committee stating that 3 members of the public would sit on the committee. Administration is bringing this back to Council for an amendment to the bylaw to allow for more members at large on the committee. So I've attached the bylaw, and the recommendation is that additional members may be appointed at Council's discretion. And administration is recommending all 3 readings.
I would move that council give first reading to bylaw 1409, Downtown Design Review Committee bylaw, amendment bylaw.
All in favor? And carried.
Your Worship, I would move that council give second reading to bylaw number 14-09, Downtown Design Review Committee bylaw, amendment bylaw.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, was there significant interest in people sitting on the committee? Is that the reason? Yeah. Thank you. So, Your Worship.
I do have a few questions if no one else has them. There is no maximum number of people that you could put on this review committee in this bylaw.
be within reason.
Could you please explain what within reason is to me?
Well, I guess we're just asking for more than 3 people. We've had interest expressed from 3 additional people.
And that's members of the community.
It's just basically, sorry, Your Worship, it's just so that we don't have to change the bylaw every time somebody asks to sit. Generally, when we do a committee, we do it according to the policy, and we bring terms of reference. Unfortunately, this one got put into a bylaw when the design review committee was formed. So anytime you make a change or want to add members, you have to actually change the bylaw rather than just bring the terms. So we just thought it would be more practical.
Deputy Mayor Sobel?
I would just make a note, Your Worship, that this is within council's discretion to appoint this. So council can say no.
Appointments come forward.
At such a number if they so desire. There is some control. There's a control as to what the maximum is, and it's council's decision.
Okay. Then the next question I have is under 1319. It says quorum is 5. If we change the number of the members that are sitting on there, then your quorum number is going to be affected. No?
No.
You're still saying quorum will be 5?
Sure.
You can set your quorum.
Okay. We have second reading. All in favor of the motion on the second reading? Carried. And?
I move that council give unanimous consent for third reading of bylaw number 14-09 Downtown Design Review Committee Bylaw Amendment Bylaw.
All in favor? Carried. And?
Oh, Your Worship, I would move that council give third and final reading to bylaw number 14-09, Downtown Design Review Committee Bylaw Amendment Bylaw.
It's like that when we were pouring coffee today.
Squirrel.
Okay. We have that listed, so we're okay. All in favor? Carried, and 1 opposed.
Record the vote.
Oh, you don't.
What do you do automatically?
Oh, we do. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
That's just
Correct.
policy,
Yes.
no
Awesome.
procedure.
And our next item is no old business. New business staff report, development permit application 14D027, 027. And that's planning and development. Oh, good evening, Mr. Fisher.
Good evening again, Your Worship and members of council. This is a development permit application by the Calgary Kart Racing Club that proposes developing a multi-use recreational motorsports park in the extreme southeast corner of a portion of the southeast quarter of section 12, 24, 25 west of the 4th Meridian. The president of the club, Mr. John Kwong, and Fred Klauser, the manager, are here this evening to comment or answer any questions. The matter has been referred to council because this particular use is not listed as an allowable use in the applicable land use district, which is zoned M1. So the land use district allows indoor recreation services as an allowable use, but not outdoor recreation service, which we suggest perhaps is a deficiency in the bylaw, which will be remedied when the new bylaw comes out. It is far more common to put outdoor recreation facilities in an industrial park because of potential land use conflicts than indoor recreation facilities, which by their very nature shouldn't have an impact on the adjacent neighbors. The parcel is owned by the town, and tentatively there is an agreement to lease 20 acres of the site to the Calgary Kart Racing Club for this facility. As mentioned, it's in the extreme southeast corner of that quarter section, and the development will be constructed over a series of phases. And so our main concern is that as development gets closer to this facility and we can't predict what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years in the future, then we certainly want to minimize the risk of any land use conflicts. So one of the things we're suggesting is that the 20-acre site be shifted north from the quarter section line about 20 meters. That will enable, if necessary, an east-west road to be provided through there if we need it at some point in the future, while at the same time pulling it away from the boundary with the county. Over and above that, we're looking at a 2-meter setback, or at least that's the way that it was envisaged at the time the report was written. We're proposing a 6-meter setback along the west and the north. Now, the reason for the 6-meter setback is that a 20 feet buffer strip allows you to do a 2.5-foot high berm with a 1-to-4 slope. If you follow that, like 2.5 feet and 10, but you need to slope it both ways. And 4-to-1 slope is typically considered the maximum that you can do, either for safety on a lawnmower or to avoid scalping the soil and or grass with a lawnmower. We initially thought that a 3-meter wide landscape buffer strip along the east boundary would be sufficient, and that was our recommendation. However, in the last, since Friday, I've been in contact with the county, and they've raised a number of issues. So, and I've briefly spoken to the club just before the meeting. I think we want to do 6 meters all the way around this thing, just to be on the safe side, and it can be a kind of a floating thing. I don't think it would matter a whole lot to the town if in the interim that berm were located beyond the leased area, as long as at such time as subdivision occurs, it's included within the leased area, if you follow what I'm saying.
Somewhat.
The recommendation is for approval with conditions. And some of these are prior to release conditions. And one of the things that we have asked for as a condition is the right to amend these conditions as necessary to respond to the circulation comments. We managed to get this to the county yesterday, and they have on Monday, and they have a bunch of questions about noise and so on and so forth. And so we might want to tweak this a little bit, but by and large, we don't see any issues with it, at least not that can't be managed in the future. We do anticipate that this project will be phased over a period of time, so when new development is added, if there's a radio control club, for example, a track that's put on the site, that would come back for us a development permit. And if at some point development gets a lot closer, well, then we can deal with things like berms and additional landscaping. The club, in conversation with me last night, did indicate that they were anticipating on building the berm and the sound fence fairly soon. So I don't want to commit them to that because I haven't discussed that in detail with them, but I think that probably would be prudent, or certainly would be perceived as neighborly by the county.
Questions? No.
I would just say, Your Worship, that one of the things when we were making this consideration and was the issue of noise, and I think we were well satisfied after we saw video footage and we heard comments from this group previously that allayed those fears to a large degree. And I think that the county, if they wanted to see that, it could be made available to them as well.
I submitted a letter to the county today just for information.
Yeah.
So there are different vehicles with different engines with different noise imprints. So the loudest vehicle will produce about 85 to 89 decibels at a distance of 1 meter. Based on our calculations, the closest farmstead, the boundary of the farmstead, is, I believe, 762 meters away. At that point, you would still get a residual of about 65 decibels, which is, it would be noticeable, but as I indicated to the county, I think that would be also mitigated by the white noise from Highway 1.
I was just going to say, so what would the comparison be, because those homesteads are on Highway 1? So what would the comparative noise level be between the vehicles that are traveling on Highway 1 and the cart track that's 782 meters away? Do you have any idea? I'm assuming it would be equal, if not greater.
Not without doing the calculations, but there is a...
Having had a child who lived on that property, I can assure you it's loud.
Oh, I live 2.5 miles from the Trans-Canada Highway. I can hear it.
Yeah.
The rub is, of course, the Trans-Canada Highway's there. This isn't.
Further questions? The berms themselves, I'm assuming, will also cut back on some of the noise?
Oh, absolutely. I think with proper contouring, the reason for a 2.5-foot berm is that by the time you put a 6 to 6.5-foot fence on it, provided as a bona fide sound fence, it does a pretty good job of cutting off that footprint.
Yeah. So, is there
Your Worship, I move that Council approve development permit application 14D-027 as a discretionary use subject to conditions identified in the attached development permit.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
8.2 is 2014 Street Improvement Project, Lakeside Boulevard. And Mr. Parker, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Did you, never mind. I think you changed the order of paper.
We were still supposed to be at 8.2 here.
I have no idea. I'm probably getting misinformation.
No, I thought we had added 8.11 by Councilor Peterson, no?
That's further on down.
Okay.
811.
Sorry.
Mr. Parker, sorry. Sorry.
Good evening, Council. This evening we have our 2014 Street Improvement Project, which we've been working on over the last few months to do the design and engineering work of the work with Associated Engineering. We've tendered the construction element of the project for approximately 2 weeks on the Alberta purchasing site as well as our website for the contractors to be aware and to bid through the tender period. There's a site meeting on site during that period for information for the contractors to clarify any questions or any issues that they foresaw with the construction. And we closed the tender on May the 1st, 2014. At close of tender, we received 4 tenders from contractors. At the time of agenda creation, we had done a preliminary review on the tender submissions. At that time, their preliminary review did not indicate any issues with the tenders that were received. We've now also completed a detailed review, and in terms of the information within the tenders, we did not identify any issues with the math within the tenders or the assumptions or information that the tender providers had given us. As a result, the tender price is indicated, or the range indicated in paragraph 3 of the discussion on the agenda item is accurate in terms of the price that we've received from the tender bids. Obviously, or I guess in the agenda item, we've summarized that these amounts are significantly higher than our budget for the project itself. It indicated in the background information that our budget for the project was approximately $1.6 million. That was based on pricing that we'd received for last year's project on Thomas Drive, largely, and we'd carried some of that information to create our budget going into 2014. Unfortunately, the pricing and some of the scope of work has increased, I guess, that price significantly, and as a result, this evening, I have a couple, I guess, requests from Council. For information, the low bid that was received from Volker Steven Contracting. Volker have done work in town previously for the development community and I believe for the town as well. As you're aware, they are the operations and maintenance folks for Highway 1 and Highway 817 provincial highways through town. And we've worked with Volker on operations and maintenance issues as well as construction issues or construction projects within town with very little issues and no negative feedback. We've also spoke to some of the references that they've provided through their tender and received the same information from their references that they're a reputable contractor and have done well in other communities. So this evening, in terms of the shortfall of our budget versus the tenders we've received, one of the proposed potential changes or recommendations that we had was In 2014, we have a capital budget for infrastructure replacements. I've come to council previously at the end of 2013 and requested that the infrastructure replacement funds that we've had in a capital reserve for some time now be carried into 2014 for an additional project in 14. Not in a reserve, but we've carried those funds forward, and we've been indicated that we're not able to carry those forwards beyond this year as a reserve. We have to increase or have a project to complete that work. In terms of infrastructure replacements. And so we've put together a proposal this evening to utilize those funds for the project in Lakeside Boulevard as an option for council relative to, I guess, compensating for the difference between our budgeted amounts for the capital project and the actual tenders received from the contractors associated with the tender that was put out on APC. So there's about $1,090,000 in that when combined with the funds that are planned for this year as well. So we currently in 2014 have a plan for $220,000 for water replacements and $150,000 for sewer replacements in 2014 that were planned to be added to the reserves that were carried forward from 2013. So by consolidating those into the $1.6 million that we have for the project itself, that will get us to about 4% above the 4.5% above the bid that was the low bid from Volker Steven. We had asked for a contingency number to be included as part of the bid, or just a raw 10% to be added onto the tender for planning and contingency purposes. We typically award for the amount that is the tender amount and plan for the contingency within the project budget. But we would then ask for the project budget to be increased to $2,733,525, but would recommend award to Volker Steven in the amount of $2,615,660.75, which is their tendered amount for the project before tax and before contingency.
Questions? Deputy Mayor Sobel?
Thank you. You mentioned that the scope of the work had increased after the initial budget amount of 1.6. Can you just provide some information as to how that increased, please?
Yes. One of the considerations that we've made since we created that budget item is the planned revitalization of downtown relative to increase in the density in the downtown area. To accommodate that additional density and number of residences increased in the downtown area, we've determined through investigation as well as through conversation with our operators in EPCOR that there's not a lot of ability to increase the density in the downtown area without increasing the capacity within our water and sewer infrastructure. So we hadn't originally planned for that within the budget that we brought forward in 2013 for this project. But upon reviewing the size and in conversation with our operators, there are surcharging issues existing today in the downtown area, specifically in Lakeside Boulevard. And it was recommended then that we increase the size of those pipes to be replaced oversized of what they're currently, not just putting back the same size as what they are today, but increasing that size to accommodate future density increases in the downtown area. So that was, I guess, an incremental scope change over and above what we'd planned for in creating the budget in 2013.
You got a dollar figure on that?
I don't have that at my fingertips, but I can put that together, absolutely. Yeah.
So will that afford greater density in the downtown area if that's done, or do we still have a problem with the rest of the pipes in the downtown area?
There are other pipes that we've identified within the master servicing study.
Some of the ones that we can't do because of this.
Well, I would say yes. There are pipes that our infrastructure replacement would go towards replacing. We have clay tile sanitary pipes and cast iron water pipes that are due. Yeah, it could be. That we should be replacing. Obviously, infrastructure replacement costs are very high. But yes, in order to accommodate additional growth in some of the areas downtown where there's For instance, 4-inch mains within the roadway that are cast iron water mains. It's recommended through our master servicing study and also through an assessment of our water model that we replace those pipes with increased size. And part of the scope of work with this is to where those stubs would come off of Lakeside Boulevard to tie into the infrastructure in the roadways going east-west would be to size those stubs going into those roadways so that we don't have to go back into Lakeside Boulevard when that work is completed in the future. So there'd be a reducer from, let's say a 200 line off of Lakeside Boulevard that would reduce it to a 100 to meet the existing.
And then you could just take that off.
And later we would end the project scope for, say, call it 5th Avenue. We would end it at the edge of Lakeside Boulevard and not have to go out into Lakeside Boulevard to do the work.
Councilor Blokman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair, Jesse, I can understand what you're saying. But by moving that $1,090,000 over to get enough money put together to do what we're going to do here, are we jeopardizing any other priorities in the downtown area, some of those streets?
That funding, the funding that we've suggested could be reallocated was not intended for roadway replacements. It was intended for infrastructure replacements.
Okay.
So pipes.
But obviously that's going to put us, by moving this $1,090,000 over now, that's going to put us back a year or two?
Yeah, I mean, we're in essence kind of sacrificing some of our replacement initiatives for the sake of, but not to, I guess, we are also replacing a significant amount of infrastructure in Lakeside Boulevard associated with this work.
Okay, and the second question is reducing the scope of the project. What can we reduce?
Well, I'd say it would be a shorter distance.
If we were thinking of doing that.
If we were considering reducing the scope, I would suggest that we would do half of the project or something along those lines. It's not an ideal scenario, and I don't know that we could. We would likely have to go back out to tender or have a conversation with the low bid to see if they would honor their pricing based on a scope reduction. But that would be, I guess, an option that we can look at.
To me, 2.75 million is not an ideal situation either.
No, I definitely would agree. Yeah, absolutely. And just for some perspective, we paid approximately $400 a linear meter for Thomas Drive Underground. The pricing that we received in this project was over $800 a linear meter, so it's double.
In 1 year?
The price. In terms of the quotes, yeah, our low bid.
Or 2 years since the first quote came in on Thomas?
Yeah, a year and a bit, yeah. Wow. So I was shocked. I was surprised that underground price did what it did, but it was consistent throughout the tenders. So the underground work, there wasn't I've got the total results in front of me here, and Volker Steven were the low bid on the underground.
So if we were to reduce the scope and split this in half, it conceivably next year that 800 could turn into 1,200.
It's possible, yeah. One of the things, I mean, one of the opportunities one of the other alternatives that was suggested is to postpone the project to a future year. Part of the challenge and what we've heard from contractors with these summer jobs that we do in town of late, Thomas Drive, we had an end date of you have to be done and out by August long weekend. And with the May and June rains that we get, contractors are very aware of the pressures of completing the project on time, and I guess I would indicate that there's likely been some cost built into these tenders to accommodate if there are liquidated damages or penalties for missing the target dates. We always ask, or in the past we've asked, that these projects are completed prior to Heritage Days so we have a great impression of the town, and we're, we've got this new roadway, and this one is a very crucial one, obviously, given the location in the downtown area and on the parade route for Heritage Days and all that kind of stuff.
I'm not so much in favor of, sorry for butting in there.
No problem.
I'm not so much in favor myself of postponing this thing to a future year, because we'll end up with the same scenario we had with Thomas Drive, where it got postponed, I don't know how many times. Over the course of, I think it was 2005, I believe, when it first came up.
We had a plan, yeah, there was a plan that had planned Thomas Drive in 2010, I believe, and we bumped it based on the overall projects being bumped. But yes, there was a road improvement plan that we were behind on, and we're still behind on that plan. One of the suggestions that I guess council may want to be aware of is we've had some conversations with other municipalities that have indicated there is some benefit to timing tenders a little differently, right? Where we're doing the engineering work in the fall for a future, say for instance, a 2015 project, we would do the engineering in the fall of 14 and be ready to tender in January of 15, so that we've got it awarded and tendered and we're hitting the ground in March, April with some potential weather challenges, but manageable given a 6-month construction window or something along those lines. So, so obviously, with the way that we've set up our capital projects in the last couple of years, we're kind of, I guess, rushing to get the engineering done and then doing a tender to have a construction complete by August, but we're compacting that window, which tends to drive up the price, or that's kind of what we're seeing this year.
Deputy Mayor Solon?
Thank you. So here's another question for you. How long a project with this?
Volker Steven have indicated that they would occupy the site for approximately 45 days.
So why don't we get this started right after Heritage Days?
The risk with that, I think, is the other side of the weather, right? It's the asphalt, with the snow that we had in October this year, in mid-October, and the asphalt plants closing early October to mid-October. After Heritage Days, we run into we've got a window there, but there's weather implications with that window as well.
But that's over 60 days.
It's I'll say
and normally
it's not a lot of breathing.
Octobers are not bad.
It's not a lot of breathing room. I don't know that it would drive the cost down a whole lot, because we're still going to say you have to have it paved by October because we don't want a gravel road for the winter, right? So the contractors are going to err on the side of caution, plan for a completion in late September to give them some days on the other end if there are weather events, but your pricing is still going to be based on, say, a 45 or 50-day window, right? So I just off the top of my head, you're still limiting.
Does that not give them like a 60-day window?
I don't think it's as close to 60 days as it would be between 40 and 50, right? Because Heritage Days
finishes on the
4th-ish. By the time then a contractor's mobilized, you're looking into mid-October. They're going to bring the trailer in and everything, right? So you're talking about a site occupancy. We could squeeze the 45 days in there, but you're not going to get 75 days, right? You're not going to get 70 days. You're going to get 50.
Because I'm wondering about retendering for the fall of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is over $1 million over. Jeez. Which is why I'd like to know what the price of those pipes were.
Which pipe?
The enlarging of the pipes, what the cost of that is.
It's not a significant number. I'll put it that way. It's not the total underground cost. Let's call it on this 1.5 million of the 2.6 is underground. The difference between a 250 water main and a 300 water main is between 800 and 900 per linear meter. So $100 per linear meter over 300 meters, just for example, on water.
Okay.
So $30,000.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, the question that I have then, and I understand the situation in regards to the 45 days, is part of the increase in the cost because of our need to have it completed by Heritage Days?
We did receive that feedback during the construction meeting, that we could expect the prices to be high based on the aggressive completion date. Yes. Now, to what extent, it's difficult to say, right?
Okay. Councillor Fuel?
I was just going to follow your line of question, Your Worship, in that this one is essential because, as you stated, it's the parade route and it's right downtown, but maybe we need a bit of a philosophy change in regards to some of the other roads that we do in this town, that there's not such a rush to have them done always by Heritage Days, because if it's going to drive the price up that much, I don't know, if we ever do the one near the Seniors Lodge, for example. I think we need to start moving away from, okay, so it's not done. Is that really going to destroy the showcase ability of our town? And is that important compared to how much this might be driving up the price with, like you say, such an aggressive window to get things done by Heritage Day? We may need to start moving away from that kind of philosophy. Mm-hmm. And this one is different because it's right there and it is the parade route, basically. But I think in the future we need to start looking at that.
And when we talk about the additional 10% that potentially brings it up to 2.85, somewhere in there.
Yes, that's correct. 2.87 for 10%, and just depending on what we assign for contingency.
I don't see anybody rushing to make a motion.
I'd like to hear from our CEO.
Councillor Blockham first, and then we'll.
Yeah. I was ready to make a motion, but we can hear
Okay.
from the CEO first.
Well, I'd just like to hear about from the financial perspective where this puts us.
Good.
If I was voting, I would vote that we do it right after Heritage Days. And we could probably make it, unless we had a terrible snowstorm in early October. But I agree with the concept. In the future, we get the engineering done in the late fall and tender in February, and I think it'd save us money.
Your worship.
Councillor Field?
Thank you. My concern, and I totally understand what you're saying, Dr. Stanford, my concern is with this road in particular, coming off the highway and being right downtown, and the school zone in Holy Cross and Sacred Heart, if we did run into a situation where early or bad fall weather hit us, it would be pretty disastrous to have it left at gravel or something.
Well, and trying to do it after school, like if it was anywhere else in town, I'd just be all over it.
Yeah, because it's so important to be doing this when the school is shut down for those 2 months. It's too bad that window of Heritage Days hits us here, and it's too bad that the necessity to have it done while the schools are shut down is such an important factor too. Mm-hmm. Like we're kind of caught here on this one. Mm-hmm. So this puts us behind as far as next year, as far as infrastructure and piping, water piping in other areas. Then we're taking money that would be going towards something next year.
This year.
This year.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we were planning additional projects this year to replace infrastructure.
So it comes down to prioritizing that.
Not the infrastructure in Second Street. No, it would be. We're working on a plan right now, but Second Street was our planned project for next year from a roadway improvement.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm adding anything here, but in regards to the schools, we're disrupting them 3 weeks if we go before and a month after.
Yeah.
Unless
wish
things
they
go awry. Yeah.
And
either way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right, Councillor Solon.
Yeah.
Then the question, Mr. Parker, is if we decide to delay until after Heritage Days, will that cause a problem for the tender?
The retender?
Yeah?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can we get would you mind if you offered your opinion on that?
I understand. So this is a project, Lakeside Boulevard. I'll give you my honest opinion on this. Lakeside Boulevard was a project that was somewhat expedited within the discussions that were had previously. There's a need to do it at some point. I don't know that we're getting great value for our dollar in this tender. I'll be honest. Given some of the constraints and the pressures that we've put on the contractors, I mean, it's when you look at the stretch, it's difficult to compare Thomas Drive. We did that for budget purposes, but it cost us $3.3 million to do Thomas Drive, which was 1.6 kilometers of roadway with some minor underground work, right? This is major underground work and a much smaller, you know, there's an extra kilometer of road that we did on Thomas Drive last year. So when you compare, and that's 3.3 total, so it's, you know, it was less than that from a tender perspective when you take out GST and everything else. But so that's why I'm a little weary of our value for the dollar on this one, just because it is so high and based on just like I say, the deadlines that we've imposed and things along those lines. That said, it's a tough one. I definitely sympathize with the struggles you guys, and I've had the struggles that you guys are having right now. It's a roadway that is the entrance to our town. It's along our major park. It's the entrance to the downtown from a revitalization. It was a project we chose to demonstrate our commitment to the downtown revitalization. We're throwing, you know, there's an opportunity for us to also set the stage for increased density downtown through the improvements we make to the infrastructure. There's also that side of things, right? So it's, yeah, we're not getting great value, but it's not ever going to be an easy project for us to do, given some of the challenges that you've identified this evening with the schools and the heritage days and the use of the park, and the spray park is a whole other beast in the summer months. The fire department being right off the roadway, it's never going to be an easy project. Right? There's always going to be a lot of limitations and a lot of challenges for a contractor that goes in to do that project. I don't know what we're going to see for a price if we delay. I honestly don't know that we're going to see, given the site occupation that was indicated from the contractors, they've indicated a very aggressive project to complete it, but I don't know that if we gave them 50 or 60 days after the heritage days that our pricing is going to be all that significantly different. It could go up. I don't know, right? I mean, it's hard to say. I think in some of the conversations that we've had with other municipalities, this idea of tendering in the fall and awarding in January, in essence, before there's a list of projects that contractors have lined up and scheduled, you know, there's an opportunity for us to be potentially on the front, you know, of that list, and then take advantage of, you know, a longer construction window by having it awarded earlier in the year. And I think that's a better potential for us to see a decrease in the price. But again, it doesn't reduce the challenges of the project. You know, if we were to do this from March to August, you do have the school, you still have the fire department to contend with. You have the parade. You've got the, you know, it's everything. Right? So it's a very key road in town, and it's always going to have those challenges. That's a long-winded. I don't know.
I think your answer really cuts to the heart of the matter. In what I've heard from you say is that this was an expedited project. I have a question in relation to that. Understanding all the reasons why we made the right decision, or why the right decision was made previously in strategic planning by previous council, are there places in town that are a greater priority in terms of need in terms of infrastructure?
In terms of infrastructure,
yes.
Like
yes. Like
the underground infrastructure.
Yes, the underground.
There are places that are in need. I'll say in more urgent need, much different scope. We have some significantly older, well, not older, but significantly more degraded infrastructure in town that, you know, we need to do something about as well. But I also wouldn't necessarily recommend that we also then allocate all of our dollars to replacing a non-primary road.
I understand.
So there's infrastructure replacements that are needed, but not necessarily road
Right.
rebuilding and
Yeah.
things along those lines.
So what I'm thinking and what I would entertain after hearing from my fellow councillors, because I'm relatively new to this, would be to actually postpone Lakeside Boulevard and then look into the future at benefit of timing, as Jesse have said, and look at tendering differently. And if there is something that we could do in an underground infrastructure that would be more immediate and useful in terms of keeping us on track, and take a look for another day. And you know, my concern is a commitment to the downtown revitalization. That is a major commitment, but at the same time, I think we have a little bit of room in terms of looking at future density. I don't think we have a whole bunch of room, because I really do think that the town is going to grow and grow quickly in the very near future, but I do think we have a few years.
I think Councillor Fuel was next.
I think my biggest concern is if we delay the cost of this for next year, because we're always going to be faced on this particular road with a small window of time to get it done, because it's a parade route. It's it's one of the main entrances to town. It's in a situation where it's got to be done in a small window of time. And my concern is, if we wait and do this different tendering process, is that going to save us? Like, the road does have to be done. It's always going to have that situation of having to be done quickly. So, you know, I'm just leaning towards getting it done, and it's something that's very important. I don't know. I think it's very important in that once it's done, we don't have to face the possible high price next year, because it's jumped so much since we did Brent Boulevard too. It's been a huge jump since we did Brent Boulevard. And if we wait and delay and change the tender, we still have to face that short window, and we may have a much higher price next year. That's it.
Thank you. Two issues. First of all, just in following up what Councillor Fuel said, if we do the engineering, of course the engineering is done, but if we tender this out in January and award early, then with an early spring affords the company an opportunity to start earlier than what they will be starting this year. Correct. So I think the pressure is actually alleviated in a system like that, because they could conceivably, I mean, not every winter is going to be like this. Mm-hmm. They could conceivably start 15th of April. Correct. And the second is a question I have for you. Normally, how many contractors would we feel would be able to bid on something like this?
How many have we seen in the past, or
how many are we dealing with basically that we invite to tender?
Well, we put it out publicly,
okay. So
we don't single out any contractors.
How many would we be? Do you think we would be that would be seriously looking at a job like this? Do you have a number at all?
We had a significant number of views on our posting, okay. And a number of organizations pulled the documents from the Alberta Purchasing Connection. I don't have that number readily available. I believe on Thomas Drive last year, if I remember correctly, I thought we had 7 contractors that bid. But don't quote me on that. I can get that information and provide that. 4, we were expecting maybe a little bit more of a response than 4, but the 4 were all very close, relatively speaking. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like we'd seen in other tenders, right?
400,000 per, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you cross that $3 million number, it's like the $2.99 pricing at the store, right? It sounds like a little, but yeah, it was close, relatively speaking, on a tender basis.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that tendering early in January might allow for more companies to offer tender, and I'm wondering why some of them didn't, and I know why. The answer is most probably that they were too busy to take this on.
More than likely.
So they've already got jobs in June, July.
Yeah, and I guess just in terms for information for council, our pre-construction or pre-tender estimate was high. I mean, our engineers on the project estimated the project, and they were actually higher than what the tender came in at, but they are also factoring in somewhat of a consideration for some of the deadlines and challenges in the project, and expecting bidders to account for those. So our pre-construction estimate was higher than what it actually came in at. But
I'm sorry, Jesse, I missed all this.
we have our engineers, so before we go out to tender, our engineers prepare a pre-construction estimate, or pre-tender estimate.
Is that our budgeted amount?
No, but this is done immediately prior to going to tender. So
Oh,
once
I
the
see.
scope of the work is prepared and complete, they give us an estimate of what we can expect from a tender. Not to slander the engineering firms, but they're always a little high. Construction on Thomas last year, I believe the estimate was upwards of $4 million,
yes.
right? So those are somewhat err on the side of caution, I guess, in terms of the construction tenders. So, but our tender estimate, or pre-tender estimate from our engineers was higher than what our bid was. So I don't want to also give the impression that we can guarantee that in January we're going to get a better price and it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I can't guarantee that. But that said, you know, it is an opportunity that's been identified through other municipalities, and it may present an opportunity for us to knock that price down a little bit. But I don't want council to have the impression that we're going to get a bid that's going to be 1.6 million, or it's going to be less, or, you know, like, the reality of it is that not all of the tenders were very close relative to their infrastructure cost. Some have pricing on general requirements that was a little higher than others, and that's usually where there's, you know, I guess an accommodation for potential penalties and things along those lines based on missing dates.
And lastly, if we do that tender in January, we have to spend this $1,090,000 prior to the end of the year.
That would be some, excuse me, yes, that would be something we would have to refer to, I believe, municipal affairs relative to our use of MSI funds. Our Director of Corporate Services had spoken with municipal affairs about our ability to defer MSI payments over a number of years. I believe the indication that we had in December when we were requesting a reserve to be created was that we have to spend prior year's funds in 2014. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend 2014's allocated MSI funds in 14, but I believe the indication was that we had to spend prior years in 14. And we're not able to create a reserve for a future project.
How much money is that?
What is the PICO account then for?
Well, our just quick numbers off the top of my head, we've got 220,000 and 150,000, so that'd be 370,000 in our reserve this year for 2014 for infrastructure replacements. I'd calculated our total reserve, including this year's, at 1,090,000, so 1,090,000 minus 370, so call it, is that 650? Sorry, no.
730, 720.
Yeah, sorry, my head's
720.
cloudy, but yeah. So that would be the difference of those two would be what we would be we'd need to spend this year.
So we'd lose out on the 720.
No, we can spend it.
We can still,
But if we didn't,
we wouldn't be able to apply it to.
You know, if we don't spend it, we lose it.
For this project.
I can't answer that. I don't know what the terms of the MSI grant funding are, but I would suspect that we have to give a capital project to indicate our intention to spend that in 2014.
We could do another project with it.
Correct.
Okay. Councilor Peel?
Just a question, if we decided to go ahead with Lakeside Boulevard and there was a failure somewhere where we had planned to do some infrastructure replacement, worst case scenario, if that happened, what do we have in place for that?
Well, we have that occurring regularly as it is. For instance, we just had some repairs on Waddy Lane in the last month. We go in and we will apply a collar to the infrastructure to band-aid it, basically. So we band-aid the problem. It's not a fix. It's just buying us time, in essence. But that's, for instance, I believe, well, we've already had, I believe, 7 underground repairs this year.
Councilor Peterson?
So if we assigned another capital project to the 730,000 that we have to spend from the PICO account, and we carry over the 1.6 million for another year, acknowledging the fact that it might be a little more, we might be in a much better position to not drive up debt and risk the necessity of tax hikes in the future by being able to do this.
Just depends on where those
Yeah,
funds would
we
be
don't know.
would be
Yeah,
allocated
yeah,
from.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a limited amount of grant funding available.
Yeah, and we don't know what do we know what it is for 2015? The MSI?
I don't think so.
No. We'll have a new.
Didn't something come out in regards to what their estimates for MSI?
There was something.
Director of
We can
Finance isn't
check
here.
on it,
Director of Finance will be able to answer that for sure.
Hmm.
Then the other question that I will ask, if I may, is do we have projects that are ready to go so we do not lose the previous year's MSIs because we haven't utilized those funds? Do we have projects that could go?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We'd be talking about infrastructure replacements, not be basically saw cutting a roadway and replacing water mains and sewer mains in easy to access areas, right? Like there's some, for instance, I would use the example of a potential project in Glenwood, right? There's the alleyway in Glenwood between No Frills and the Glenwood residences has a water main in it that's really should be replaced. It's in an alleyway. There's, I believe, 4 homes that use that. So temporary servicing is relatively easy, and it would be a simple, relatively simple replacement of the water main there. You know, there's an additional project downtown opposite Lambert in the alleyway in Lambert that's got relatively few service. It's the service connections that drive some of that increased cost as well. But you know, we've identified a number of infrastructure components that would be relatively easy to replace that we would use those grant dollars for, and we would do that after the high demand season in the summer months. So we were planning that for the fall to do that work and into the winter months.
I'm prepared to make the motion. Did you have something?
Unless, yeah, I was just wondering if we want Director of Operations here to give us a recommendation first.
It's on here. I think
There is a recommendation. Yeah, there is a recommendation within the, you know, in terms of the information that we've discussed previously and what has been communicated and discussed around the importance of this project, and I would suggest that the recommended alternative within the agenda item would be administration's recommendation, and I guess then that would be the recommendation from us, from staff.
The recommended alternative, not the alternatives?
The recommended alternative, yes.
Okay. We'll take a motion then.
Your Worship, I'm prepared to move to postpone the Lakeside Boulevard Capital Project to January 2015 and to carry over the, I don't know the exact amount, $1.6 million into that 2015 year to be assigned to the Lakeside Boulevard project. And that we direct administration to move forward with tendering in the fall of 2014. Yeah.
That's the alternative. That's not the recommended alternative.
That's right. That's correct.
I know.
And that's what you're doing here.
Um,
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. No further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Blokeland.
Your Worship, I was going to make that motion about half an hour ago, but it seems like every time I want to say something, I don't get a chance to say nothing, so whatever, that doesn't matter. I am not in favor of moving this $1,090,000 over. I am not in favor of increasing this thing up to $2.73 million. I realize there's 6 one, half a dozen of the other involved in this lakeside boulevard highway. We have school issues. We got a fire hall issue. I'm sure the fire hall issue will make sure it's okay. We haven't even talked about the spray park. I mean, that's a pretty busy place there in the summer. Don't forget, I was involved with 2nd Avenue being shut down 6, 7, 8 years ago, and you learn how to deal with it. You don't have a street. You can't use it. I'm sure we can figure out ways how to do this. What I wanted to say was, the motion I was going to make was similar to Councillor Peterson there. I would suggest, we move this, we retender this to the late fall, late 2014, early 2015, and take our chances on what price is going to come up. I just cannot justify okaying $2.73 million for this.
Any other discussion? Does anybody want the motion repeated?
That might be hard.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? I think it was carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I just hope the next one doesn't take as long.
It's hard. It's hard.
Our next item is 8.3 CTAJ professional designation.
Your worship.
Okay.
I have a letter in front of me from the Foundation of Administrative Justice, and I'll read just part of the letter. First, I would like to congratulate you. We're talking about Linda. I'd like to congratulate you on receiving your CTAJ certificate. This certificate not only marks your CTAJ completion, but also a declaration of your commitment and effort. The certification is a reflection of your dedication and hard work. And enclosed is the certificate. Right here, you've got. So we want to congratulate Linda for the time and effort and what she did to get this. So thank you.
On behalf of council, congratulations.
Worship, do we have to call her Your Honor now?
Oh.
Linda.
Oh.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Lots of work.
Next item is 8.4 Strathmore United Way Committee appointments. And if you would be...
Can I excuse myself?
Yes, sir.
I would move that council appoint Mr. David Collins and Mrs. Brenda Tibbett-Frey to the Strathmore United Way Committee for a term of 1 year.
Discussion? No discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried. And next is Communities in Bloom Week administration, please.
Your Worship, Council has received a request from the Communities in Bloom, Alberta, to proclaim Communities in Bloom Week in Strathmore. Attached or in your council package, the proclamation is attached in your council package. The local representative, Ms. Melody Wilson, has indicated that there are 2 options for the dates for Communities in Bloom Week in Strathmore, that being the last week in May, or she also recommended it could be the entire month of May, and that's at council's discretion, and administration is recommending the proclamation.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Your Worship.
Councillor Fuel.
With it already being May 7th or whatever, I'd kind of like to see it be the entire month of May, because then it would coincide with the birth forest planting date as well, and it would demonstrate the importance of Communities in Bloom and the efforts that this group is doing to beautify the town. So I think it would be a positive thing to make it the month of May.
Any further discussion?
And I can make that as a motion.
Please do.
Your worship, I would move that council proclaim the month of May as Communities in Bloom month in Strathmore.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Minister's Awards for Municipal Excellence.
Your Worship, Council has received an invitation from Alberta Municipal Affairs to provide submissions for the 13th Annual Ministers' Awards for Municipal Excellence. The awards offer an opportunity to recognize work being done by local governments, and the deadline for submissions is May 23rd, and this is for Council's discussion.
Your worship, I move that we accept this letter for information purposes.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried. 8.9, which comes to 7, Downtown Design Review Committee appointments. Page 51.
Yes. Your Worship, Council has received a request from Ms. Brandy Hebbs to be appointed to the Downtown Design Review Committee. Ms. Hebbs is requesting to be appointed as a member of the Strathmore Regional Arts Collective.
Your worship, I move that council appoint Ms. Brandy Hebbs to the Downtown Design Review Committee.
Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried. 8.10, which is now 8.8. Design Committee, Downtown Design Review Committee, council appointment.
Your Worship, Councillor Walls has indicated that he is wanting to step down from the Downtown Design Review Committee, so council will need to appoint another member to sit on this committee.
Your worship, I move that council appoint Councillor Fuel to the Downtown Design Review Committee.
Are you in favor?
Yes, I would love to do that. It's one of my interests.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? And carried. Next one is 8.11, water issue, and Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had some concerns come forward from people, not concerns, but requests from people asking that Town Council at some point in the future have a discussion about the watering times that are existing. And their position was this, that with the changes to the way we pay for our water in the town, and that in many times that has increased, and that people can now are much more conscious and conscientious about conserving water during the year so that they can utilize more potable water for their yards in the summer, that there is no need to do optional watering days. Or the other thing that they requested is that they go back to the way of watering according to the housing numbers. And they said, the other thing that they said was that they believed that the current system was one that worked very, very well in terms of council, in terms of us having a smooth operation, but that it wasn't so convenient for the populace. And that they felt that this was a time where they could, unless there was extreme restriction issues, that they could look at self-monitoring.
Your Worship, I'd like calling Jesse to answer that.
It's not really fair, Jesse, today. Why don't we do that for another day? And I'm just fine with that. Yeah, it is absolutely not requiring, and they know that. I told them that I would, and it's not requiring a response today.
Your Worship, over a period of time, we've changed back.
Yes, and they acknowledged that. And I want you to know that they were not criticizing what council had rolled out, what previous council had rolled out in terms of water metering. In fact, they thought that it was a very good conservation idea. They just thought that it was a more responsive position for people now to be able to monitor themselves. That was the whole issue.
Okay, good. So we'll bring that back to council at a later time. Committee and departmental reports. Who would like to start today?
Is there one more?
No,
Let's
that's
make a
that
pitch.
late. Let's make a pitch is actually 1.1, 11.1, I should say.
Oh,
I can start, Your Worship.
Please,
Mine
Councillor
are
Phil.
going to be brief.
Good.
Thank you. First of all, there was no Wheatland housing meeting in April. It was postponed until May. It was canceled. The SAY meeting, I'm on the SAY committee, which has high school students represented from both high schools in town. And I believe Your Worship actually mentioned a lot of the talking points at the last meeting you were at, so that's it. And there's going to be a meeting next week on Wednesday at 4 o'clock at the high school. The Youth Club of Strathmore had its latest meeting yesterday, and I've learned how to send a template report to Jennifer, so she was very proud of me. But just a quick high points from the meeting yesterday. The software system is being worked on by town. We've talked before about Friday Night Laughs fundraiser on May 30th. We've sold 100 tickets. So we would like people to really consider us and buy tickets. All the proceeds are going towards purchasing a bus or a shuttle van for the club. There is a need to still have the final memorandum of understanding presented and signed. The furnaces are no longer working. We've had to use electric heaters, so please help us. We received a $5,000 grant from Youth Justice, and I made a motion yesterday to have all those monies go to the bus account, and that was carried. We are looking at bringing in a positive parenting program in the fall of 2014 for parents to learn and improve their skills in raising teens, and it's been a very successful program in other places. And our annual general meeting is to be held May 27th at 7 p.m., and the mayor, the county reeve, and our local MLA will be invited to that. May 27th, 7 p.m. I know you're busy schedule, sir.
That's FCM week.
yes.
Okay.
And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson, you're next.
What was I on for that? I don't remember. I lost my.
We're on the committee and departmental.
Oh, yes. So Councillor Walls and I have decided to defer the library report until the 21st. And Marigold will be included in that. And the only other meeting was that Councillor Blockland and I attended, but we just attended it Monday night, and I don't know if Councillor Blockland has a chance to go over our combined minutes, but...
No, I thought you were doing them. So.
Well, I wanted you to look at them first, so we'll bring them forward on the 21st. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of good news. Actually, one of the things we should say, we'll bring our notes forward, but on June the 6th, they're having a 25th celebration for that, and the 25th anniversary of Wademsa. We're very excited about it. They worked very diligently on it, and so they are. I think that there'll be people from here wanting attendance at that. And I don't know if you want to say any more about that.
No, not much more.
Councillor Blockland, please. Do you have any committee reports?
Yes, I do actually. Handy Bus Association meeting April 28th I attended. According to Mel, we got the best financials ever. Operations on the fleet are in good shape. They want to participate in the parade here in the summertime. In March we moved 514 clients. Maintenance dollars for the year to date are under $1,700 on 6 vehicles. For council's information, there was no after-hour trips to Sagewood. We are purchasing a new vehicle in the $50,000 range. We want to add this onto our fleet, as we find we're getting tied up in the city way too much, as medical appointments are not running on time. So what happens is one of our vans or buses are in there, and then they're waiting for somebody for 2 hours, and then we got to pull that one back to town, and it's costing a lot of money doing that. So we're going to purchase a new one and keep one of our older ones in town, and that'll alleviate some of the problems in town and in Calgary. We have started reviewing, evaluating, and updating our policies. Chamber of Commerce meeting was just an hour before that meeting on the same day. They're doing slightly better financially. However, like I said before, an extreme shortage of board members. Our board chair has indicated she wants to step down. Nobody has indicated they want to step up. Our treasurer is moving right out of town, so we got an opening there. And we discussed the parade issues, which we all heard about tonight. So. And I attended Wedemza with Councillor Peterson.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bolton. And Deputy Mayor Sobel.
Thank you. For Strathmore, Alberta 55 Plus Summer Games, the directors meeting was held April 28th, and I was present. The committee has hired their first employee who is a practicum student and who will be focusing on promotion of the games. In regards to employees, I'm also a member of the hiring subcommittee for the games, and we continue to seek out the right person to hire as our games manager. This is an important position, as it will be this person who will actually be running the games under the direction of the board of directors. Process continues, and committee members continue to work on various grants, and our Friends of the Game director responsible for fundraising introduced a number of innovative and interesting ideas designed to raise money for these games. This discussion was had in regards to the need for a web page, and efforts in that regard are taking place. Once again, the games will be relying heavily on volunteers, many of whom have come forth. Quite simply, however, there is never enough, and if anyone is interested in volunteering, please contact Tracy Simpson at the town office or myself, and we'll put you in touch with our director of volunteers. Sorry, Tracy. Strathmore Wheatland Addictions Team. I attended the April 3rd SWAT committee meeting and received a financial report for the group, as well as updates in regards to various grants. Slogan boards were discussed and appropriate slogans chosen for May. We continue to inch closer to having a new brochure put in place, one that will provide information on various activities available to the youth in our communities. We had a representative attend the Children's Festival on April 12th. And lastly, the positive ticketing program was discussed with representatives of the various police departments involved in order to ascertain whether they feel this is a worthwhile project. There was no hesitation on their part to support this program, and as such, it will continue until the end of, at least the end of this year. Calgary Regional Partnership Transportation Committee, there was a transportation meeting held in Cochrane, April 16th. However, inclement weather prohibited me from attending. Downtown Revitalization Committee held their meeting on April 15th, and I was in attendance. A number of signage applications, 4 actually, were reviewed and recommendations issued. The committee was treated with planned drawings for the exterior of the standard building, and all were suitably impressed. This is going to be an amazing building once it's finished. New business focused on an introduction to BRZs, or business revitalization zones, and the benefits of having a downtown farmers market. The committee also approved a letter to be sent out to businesses in the downtown district, emphasizing the need for us all to work together, and the benefits of keeping everyone's property neat and clean. All of these businesses benefit, all businesses in the downtown area benefit from making our downtown a welcome and attractive area. And there was no meetings for the Council Policy Review Committee, and that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. April activity for me, and it's over and above committee meetings. I attended the Economic Development Conference in the Kananaskis, and that was April 9th, 10th, and 11th in 2014. The conference was primarily developing ways to better utilize community resources in urban planning, economic development, and communication. There were several keynote speakers, and I've got the written report, and I'll give it to you for the minutes. I'm not going to go through it. But I had the opportunity to meet with several economic development officers, mayors, councillors with the City of Airdrie, Okotoks, Rocky View County, Edmonton, and other communities, and able to determine their thoughts on growth in Alberta. And we are all in agreement that there will be some growth, and we discussed the need to be in a position to be able to plan for that growth and take advantage of the opportunities. On April 25th, I attended economic development for elected officials in Ols, and it was a workshop, and I brought some interesting ideas back, which at first opportunity I'd love to discuss some of them with council. Last council meeting I did mention Vimy Night, but this is all part of my April activities. So April 12th, I attended Vimy Night. Volunteer Appreciation Night was on April 11th. I attended the TARP auction with the CAO, the town's community events coordinator. And I attended with the manager from the Alberta Treasury Branch who represented the Chamber of Commerce. The TARP auction was the Rangeland Derby, and that was held on April the 8th, TARP auction. Bids for the tarps were brisk, and all the Strathmore Stampede spots for the Stampede truck wagon tarps sold quickly. April the 12th, I attended the AGM for the Amerigold Library. I was only able to attend briefly due to other commitments on that day, and I advised them I plan to attend other library meetings during the year. The Audit Committee met to finalize a recommendation for the audit, and we will also be seeking additional information going forward on review so we can complete information during the current year. The CAO and I attended the Primary Care Network and gave information on the meeting planned with the Minister of Infrastructure for the province of Alberta, which has since changed. The Lions auction I attended on April the 5th. The auction was well attended, and at that time the Plus 55 Games logo was released, and I failed to tell Ms. Ledeen that I love that logo. I was at the Wild Rose Community Futures on April the 3rd. The interim financial statements were presented and approved. Information was presented on the recovery of a non-performing loan, and further details necessary will be available at the next meeting, which will likely be in June. I attended a Olympia demo at the Family Center on April the 4th. I completed a CRP interview in regards to gathering information on environmental governance and for Strathmore, on behalf of Strathmore for this research. There was a transit-oriented workshop that CAO, some of the staff attended, and a couple of the councillors were able to attend. The transit-oriented workshop is through our Calgary Regional Partnership. We did a tour of the public schools, replanning for future growth on April the 16th. The superintendent gave council administration a walk through a few of the schools to give us an idea on what was happening. I met with the director for the Canadian Badlands on April the 22nd when she was in town, and we discussed some interesting ideas, and our community events coordinator is going to be bringing an idea forward, hopefully at the next meeting, which will give us an idea on obtaining, coming up with a new way of obtaining some funds for promotion for community events. The Alberta Cup, I was at the Alberta Cup on the 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th, and I want to thank Councillor Peterson for volunteering. I don't know if anybody else volunteered for that. Was anybody else was able to volunteer? Okay. She helped by volunteering for those games. The games were very, very successful. We received some positive feedback, and again, our representative, Tracy Simpson, is directly to be complimented in regards to the hard work on that.
And many people complimented her throughout the day and talked about how much they appreciated volunteering for her. That's amazing for future projects.
On April the 25th, radio station FM 99.7 asked me to be interviewed, and I rambled off all of the community events in a very short period of, that we have in a very short period of time, and you'd be surprised at how many things are going on in this town. Our newly appointed museum committee met on April the 28th. Rhonda Stockwell accepted the position of chair of the committee. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it secret in regards to what the committee decided, but the committee is supposed to make a presentation to us on May the 21st. And I will stop there. Thank you. Next item in regards to, yes.
Yeah, well,
oh, I'm sorry.
Linda may want to present about SRAC,
yeah.
Or we can do it on the 21st as well.
Okay. Dr. Stanford.
On my item?
No, actually, committee reports, if you wanted to.
Yeah, on economic development.
Yeah.
We're going to be with the radio station today, and the lady phoned in and said she was sick. So she's going to come on Friday and talk to us. One of the things that we're suggesting is that she'll be contacting various businesses to see if they want to put money in to do some advertising. If you listen to the radio, such as from particular Cochrane, it's the developer that's doing most of the advertising rather than the town itself. So when she comes on Friday, we're going to talk to her and encourage her to talk to the businesses, particularly the developers and builders and all, and if she can get some money to do an advertising program.
Okay, good. Nothing else? No? And then,
Linda, did you want to
did you have
talk about
something too, Linda?
No, if it's
it?
okay.
We can wait. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
I move acceptance of the committee reports, Your Worship.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. And then we have questions between councillors and
Actually, I do have a question to the CAO. Dwight, at the beginning of the evening, you withdrew number 8.
8.8?
8.8, and I
Yes.
wonder if you would be kind enough to tell us why that was pulled from the docket.
We were really excited that we were going to be able to get Rick McIver, the Minister of Infrastructure, come meet with us. We had all planned how we were going to go to the hospital. I had the doctors lined up. Everything was planned well. And then all of a sudden, I heard on the news that Rick McIver might be running for Premier. And then I just found out recently he is. So he resigned as Minister of Infrastructure. They'll appoint a new one in the near future, but there's probably not a lot of purpose in having Rick McIver come at this time. And the county were wondering, Marilyn McGregor from Alberta Health Service wanted to know, everybody wants to know. And I've told them I don't think he'll be coming, but tomorrow I will let Candace and Edmonton know that, you know, well, he can't come on that date anyway, and I'll say, let's forget about it for now.
Thank you, and I know you've been making efforts to get Minister Horn down also, because this hospital issue is not one that's going to go away as long as I'm on council anyway. So I would encourage you to continue in those, and I agree with the decision regarding Mr. McIver, of course.
And today when I spoke to Candace, I said, would you please keep trying to get the Minister of Health to come down here. She said that she would try on that. And she also made, as soon as they get the new Minister of Infrastructure, she'll be talking to him or her to see if they'll come.
Thank you.
any further items between council? No? The only item I have is the one that I put before you in regards to the Calgary Municipal Plan and the Calgary Regional Plan in regards to the changes. If you want to review them at your first opportunity and come back if you have any concerns, because I will be attending CRP next week, if I remember right, and the changes will be voted on at that time.
I have the one more item, 11.1.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about this. And some of you have heard it, but when I was at the Economic Developers Conference with the mayor, they had a competition, and there was a half dozen of us at a half dozen tables. We made a presentation to 3 very key executives, and the key one was the vice president. And we made the presentations to the 3 of them. They thought about it, talked about it, and then when they had the banquet, they announced that my particular table had won $500 each for everybody at the table to use in the community. So with that in mind, I've got something set up for that. What I want to do is I want to call it Let's Make a Pitch. And I have arranged for Ron Renaud to come out as one of the judges. I have Rel Wilson coming out as one of the judges. And the third person hasn't committed yet, but we'll have a total of 3 sitting on a panel. And various community groups can make presentations. For example, I'm just pulling out of the air. Communities in Bloom, Downtown Beautification Committee, whatever. Various communities around town. So they can come, make a presentation. And we want the public to come and watch it and participate. And we're thinking it'd be sort of neat if everybody came, brought a canned good or whatever that we could give to the food bank. And anyway, the date of it is Thursday, June the 19th. The reason we picked that date, it's about the only date that Brett Wilson was available, and I really wanted him, him and Ron Renault, and they're buddies. So anyway, the two of them are coming, like I said, one other person. So we're encouraging the public to come and watch. Some can come make presentations, but I would like to see 100 people show up and watch and listen and hear their presentations. And they'll have the opportunity to talk to Ron Renault and talk to him about his development on the east side of town there. By the way, it's coming very well. And also they talk to Brett Wilson. Get a picture with him if you want, whatever. So anyway, once again, Thursday, June the 19th, and it'll be at the Civic Center.
And what will the, in just a few words, again, like the parameters be for the competition?
We want to, the groups that come, we want them to come forth with ideas how we can beautify Strathmore. In other words, if it's from, and I'm just throwing out from maybe more trees in a certain area, or building a facility of some kind, to make environmentally, to make the community more beautiful and make the town prosper. And I'm thinking there's all kinds of groups in town.
Yep.
I could probably list several dozen that have the opportunity to come. And they can come as a group, sit at the table by themselves. So it'd be a whole bunch of tables set up. And then they can have one spokesman from each table, in other words, from each group. And probably they'll have about, depending on how many groups, but maybe about 4 minutes to give a presentation. And then the judges will decide. And I'm not sure, we haven't finalized if they'll take a break for at the end and make a decision or what. And we're encouraging developers in particular to put forth some money so that we can have enough money to really do something. Brett Wilson's already committed that he's going to put some money in, and I'm sure Ron Renault will. And I'm thinking the various developers around town, they should all put in some money, so we've got enough money in this project to really do a nice project of some kind.
And so it would be to prosper the town,
Yes.
to beautify the town, and to build community. Those are
Yes.
kind of your three.
And for example, like the food bank, to me, doesn't qualify on that, and that's why we're thinking maybe if everybody brought a canned good or two, whatever, that could be given to, the food bank. I'm looking for suggestions as well from anybody.
So the idea of this is similar to what was done at Dragon's Den, where somebody comes in and demonstrates their product in regards to whatever they feel is going to be a good business venture. But what you're looking at is a community-based group coming forward and saying, this is what we want to do in our community, this is how we will spend the money. And you say the Strathmore itself, but if something like Marigold Library came forward, because they're not just Strathmore, would they be entitled to? And I know no rules have been set
Sorry,
up.
I haven't even thought about it.
Okay. Okay. I was just wondering.
But I do know that there's some interest from the rural, because I've heard it already. Any other ideas or suggestions? It's going to be fun.
Just I think the sooner you get the amount of money that's going to be the prize is going to be the big one to start advertising.
Yes.
That'll get the attention going.
Oh yeah.
You got to get that number out.
Yep.
And there's just one other item that I could have asked this at another time, I guess, but we were thinking about doing a spring open house. Have we gotten, because I don't know if we had heard anything further on that as to.
Yes, we've talked about it, and we really want to do one. Like the one we had at Christmas time was ideal. We'd like to do the same, basically, same type of thing in here. And we're thinking maybe sometime in June.
In June, okay.
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion for move to adjourn on the floor? All in favor? Carried.